The first time I died, I was a nobody with a worthless physique, and the man who killed me walked away laughing. Then I opened my eyes again. That is my talent. Every time somebody kills me, I come back, and the bill goes to their bloodline. Kill me once and it costs you a son. Kill me twice and your family runs out of people before I run out of lives. I have buried everyone who ever loved me, and I still cannot die. Drop a like and hit that subscribe button so the algorithm carries this further. 5 seconds of your time keeps the channel breathing. Before any of that landed, I was nothing. Let me start there. I wake up in a meadow with no idea where I am, and my first coherent thought is to ask whether I am even still in the country. Mountains run off in every direction and do not stop, and the sky sits low and dark over a whole moving sea of cloud. Above me, two people are throwing themselves at each other in streaks of light, fighting exactly the way I always imagined cultivators would. One of them is a woman in white robes, and I get an eyeful I did not earn and stare a beat too long. Then my brain catches up. A sword that glows, people flying with nothing holding them, and no wires anywhere. I decide I have wandered onto a film set, and whoever said the domestic entertainment industry was finished has clearly not seen this. Then a line of sword shi goes past my ear close enough to move my hair, and opens a trench in the ground beside me that is still steaming. I reach up and a piece of my own hair comes away in my fingers, and every bit of me goes cold at once. The plot does not seem right. While I panic, I try to reconstruct how I got here. Yesterday, the last stage of a mountain pass street race. To take first place, the man in second refused to slow into the gutter drift and put his foot down through the turn instead. He went a very long way into the air and came down at the foot of the mountain, in a fireball, which landed on me, squatting in a rapeseed field attending to something private. I would like the record to show I was minding my own business. Whose day did I ruin? Then it lands properly, and the word is transmigration. As a man ground down by a job his whole adult life, I find that easy enough to accept. Up above, the fight ends. The woman in white is the stronger of the two by a margin, cold and sharp all the way through, and she puts the point of her sword at the man across from her. From the way they talk, I get their names and the whole situation inside a minute. He is Im Cheon and she is Sangwon Neung, and this is the oldest story there is. One of them has feelings like falling flowers, the other has no more intention than running water. An unanswered love has turned into something uglier. That is why there is a hole in the ground beside me. I am a wage slave, but I am a kind wage slave. So I call up that it is not easy for anybody, and they should both take a step back. Two faint black lines appear on their foreheads, and they ignore me completely. Sangwon Neung tells him he lost, and that by their agreement he is to stop pestering her. She is devoted to the Tao, she says, and she will not be considering the affairs of children and romance, so he should give the idea up. His face goes dark. He asks whether she thinks she can be rid of him, and says he will have his mother put a marriage proposal to the Sangwon family, who cannot afford to offend the Im family. Sooner or later, he tells her, she will belong to him. She sheathes her sword and tells him it is wishful thinking, because she has already joined the Mind Inquiry sect. However powerful his family is, the Im family does not give the Mind Inquiry sect orders. Then she turns that same look on me and calls me a little hooligan, and flies off on her sword into the horizon. Excuse me, that was a gaze of appreciation. What a worldly, judgmental group of people. So I shake it off and get ready to begin my transmigration journey, and Im Cheon steps into my path wearing an expression I do not like. I ask him, gloomily, whether he intends to take his unrequited love out on me. He sneers, and killing intent comes off him hard enough to flatten the grass, and tells me I guessed right and my reward is death. Swordlight comes at me and I do not understand, because this is not how the script goes. I turn and run, shouting that this is a new account, calling on every cheat and old grandpa and system and magic sword that ever saved anybody in any story I read. None of them show up. My head comes off, the ground arrives from a strange angle, and everything goes black. That is the whole run, and I died. Killing me does wonders for Im Cheon's mood. He puts his spirit sword away, calls me an ant, says Sangwon Neung's name once in a tone that promises her something vile, and grinds what is left of my head under his heel. Then a sound transmission talisman lights up on him. His younger sibling's voice comes through sobbing, telling him to come back to the Im family immediately, that it is Mother. He asks what happened to Mother, and the voice says Mother suddenly exploded. Im Cheon stands there with the sky coming down, because his mother is a Golden Core realm powerhouse, and those do not explode. She had been telling stories about his childhood, the voice says, and came apart mid-sentence, and there is blood all over the room. Im Cheon breaks and runs. And after he is gone, my corpse quietly stops existing, as though nothing had ever been lying there at all. A day later, I wake up on the grass of a collapsing old temple in Falling Flower Town, in coarse hemp clothes with my hair everywhere. There is dust and there are cobwebs and there is a statue that cracked years ago. I sit up, pat my own head, and it hurts sharply. I did not die, so I have restarted. This is a new account, and the least the world could do is let me grind some small monsters first. Then a panel opens in my mind and a great deal of information arrives at once. My name and my race. Then cultivation none. Physique mortal. No cultivation technique. No divine ability. And a lifespan reading is infinite. And then my talent, which is borrowing life. If an enemy kills me, one of that enemy's close relatives is picked at random and sacrificed to bring me back. And I get one card draw. What is on the card comes from whoever was sacrificed. My cheat was late, and my cheat still came. Infinite lifespan, immortal and indestructible, and with a start like this I am set. Then the panel updates and tells me plainly that I was killed by Shion, that his mother was sacrificed, that the host has been resurrected, and that I have earned one card draw. 8 black cards fan out in the empty air with a faint ghost light on them. And I know at once nobody else can see them. I take one. Cheon is a practitioner, so his mother almost certainly was too. And no matter how badly my luck runs, it should be impossible to draw something useless. The card shivers and shows me a yellow rank high-grade cultivation technique called the Falling Wind Palm. At major achievement, a note underneath explains that a technique of that rank requires spiritual power to operate. I look at my own filthy hands for a while. I do not have any spiritual power. Still, I get up, dust myself off, walk to the temple doorway, and flick my sleeves back like a man of consequence. Then I inform the cultivation world that its nightmare has arrived, and that the future number one under heaven is now standing here. An old man walking past looks at the beggar making this announcement and says out loud that the poor wretch is dreaming in broad daylight and has gone insane. I do not dignify that, because arguing with a mortal would only lower my standing. 3 days later, I am lying against a wall with my lips cracked, my breathing thin and roughly the color of old paper. The script is definitely wrong. I am a transmigrator with a cheat, and if I starve to death in my first week, I am the first man in recorded history to manage it. Because transmigration is nothing like the novel said. No opportunities lying around, no great expert adopting me, no beautiful confidant, no master, and when I went looking for honest labor, not one person wanted me. Robbery is out because I would lose. Theft is out because I have no skill for it. And past that, my only lever is dying on purpose. And dying is genuinely horrible. I want to go home, and I want steamed buns. While I am lying there feeling sorry for myself, somebody old and gray and bent over comes up the street and squats down beside me. He puts into my hands the only 2 meat buns he has, and a silver ingot worth 10 taels. I look up expecting an angel, and find a face like ash, carrying the specific grief of a man whose heart has already stopped working. I tear into the buns. Then, as he stands to go, I call after him with my mouth full and ask whether the old angel has run into trouble. If it is within my power, I tell him I will do what I can. 3 days on this street, and he is the first person who fed me, which makes him something to me. He stops and smiles the way people smile when it costs them, and tells me to forget it. I am about to starve myself, and the people who did this are the sky over falling Flower Town. I nearly choke on the second bun, and he hands me his only water bag. Then he says we are all poor people together, and that he, old man Jew, has done good his whole life, and asks the street why there has been no reward for it. I get a hand on his arm and tell him it is death either way, so he may as well tell me. I am not a good person. Repaying a kindness is the one line I do not cross. So he sits at the base of the wall and tells it. His son worked hard labor under a local bully and died of it, and the bully decided a death on his ground was bad luck, and demanded 10 silver taels. Old man Jew had no money, so he took his only granddaughter to the Spring Blossom Pavilion and put her to work against the debt. Then he scrimped and starved for 3 years and got the 10 taels together. And the bully told him his granddaughter, Ju Sowa, had been eating and drinking his resources for 3 years, and that redeeming her would now cost 100. That was the day he understood he was never getting her back. So he took the buns and the silver he had saved for her, handed them to a starving stranger, and went out to find a quiet place to die. I ask whether there is no law in this town and no justice. He shakes his head and tells me the officials and the wicked work the same side of the street, and ordinary mortals do not get opinions about either. That is the first time this world properly shows me its teeth. Then I tell him I have a way to get his granddaughter out. He looks at me with numb eyes and plainly does not believe a word of it. So I point out that he has nothing left and may as well treat the dead horse as a living one. He asks whether I really can. I get up, dust myself down, and tell him it is guaranteed and that he should keep the 10 taels as payment. Then I get her name and her description and tell him to wait in the alley outside and to leave Falling Flower Town the moment he has her. He thanks me until it is embarrassing and goes. I watch that bent old back go up the street and let out a long breath. I have to die one more time, and I genuinely do not want to feel that again. Then I go find a clothing shop, because dressed as a beggar I cannot get through the door of the place I need to burn down. The Spring Blossom Pavilion is the only pleasure house in Falling Flower Town, which makes it the premier destination for every scholar and refined gentleman in the district who wants to listen to some music. It is also not what you would picture. There is no gaudy decadence to it, only a row of cinnabar railings facing the street. Women lean on them in very little, beckoning at the traffic and wearing enough rouge to be smelled across the road. I spend the 10 taels on 2 sets of clothes, one cut to me and one to Jo Soha's size. Then I buy a bamboo hat, a fire starter, fuel, glass bottles, and a dagger, and build 5 very simple firebombs. I am a transmigrator. It would be strange if I did not know how. I put the bundle on my back, put the hat on, and walk in. The madam is on me before I clear the doorway, looking me up and down, and remarks with a playful smile that my outfit is truly unique. I drop my voice as cold as it will go, and tell her not to ask what she should not ask. Then I tell her I want a superior room and the best wine and food in the house. She has been doing this a long time and knows what she is looking at. A man dressed like this is somebody important who would rather not be recognized, and men like that are difficult to serve and extremely generous. So she leads me to a heavenly grade room and has a table laid with everything the kitchen has. I look at that table, swallow very hard, and keep my face still. She reads that as impatience of another kind and has 10 young women brought in. I sweep my eyes across them and say nothing. That stops her, because those are the finest in the house by face and figure and price. I ask whether she is worried I cannot cover the silver, and she laughs and says they will keep changing them until I am satisfied. So they do, batch after batches, and I keep not nodding, and her confusion keeps deepening. Eventually she asks with a helpless smile what exactly I am looking for. I tell her, slowly, that I want somebody around 16 or 17 with some experience. She waves for another batch, and this time Jo Soha is standing in it. My eyes stop on her, and I say she will do. The madam suspects nothing, and she leaves the girl and takes the rest out. The moment the door shuts, I lock it, take off the bamboo hat, and fall on that table like a starving ghost with a grudge. Whatever a man who came here to listen to music looks like, it is not this. Behind me, she starts to loosen her dress, because that is what she has been trained to do, and I tell her to stop without turning around. Then I put the men's clothing and a twist of black charcoal powder in front of her and tell her to change. I ask whether she can use makeup, because she needs to look as much like a man as she can manage. She freezes with the clothes in her hands, and then offers very softly that if my tastes run a particular way, the house also keeps delicate young men. I look up at her with 2 black lines forming on my forehead, and she panics and says that is not what she meant. I tell her it is fine, that her grandfather sent me here to get her out, and that if she wants to leave this building, she does exactly what I say. She stops moving and stares at me like I have spoken a language she used to know. So I drink a mouthful of wine and give her the short version of meeting the old man in the street. When she reaches the part where he went off to kill himself, she comes apart, down on her knees and shaking, begging me to save him. She is not afraid of being trapped here for life. She is afraid for him. I get her back on her feet and tell her I owe her grandfather a favor and came to pay it. Then I give her the instructions. Whatever I do out there, she does not interfere. She simply walks out. She nods hard enough to hurt her own neck. Then she looks at me a beat too long and starts to say something about there still being time. I cut that off flat, because she is a child, and tell her to get changed. I go back to the table. If I am about to die again, I intend to do it on a full stomach. She changes, binds herself down, pulls the loose robe over it, and works the charcoal in until what is standing in the room is a slight, unremarkable boy. Then she waits quietly while I finish. I stand and pat a stomach that is round for the first time in weeks. After all these days, a full meal at last, and a shame about it being a last meal. I shoulder the bundle and tell her it is going to get very loud out there shortly. She takes that moment and goes, and her grandfather is waiting in the alley left of the front door. She asks, worried, whether her benefactor will be in danger. I grin and tell her not to worry, because my death is guaranteed. She has no response to that at all. Joke. I tell her, and then I make her repeat it back. Whatever happens, she does not interfere, because anything else gets me and her grandfather killed. Her face goes serious, and she says she understands. I tell her I will see her again if fate allows, and I go. The madam is at the top of the stairs working the room, and when she sees me, she puts her smile back on and comes over remarking on how very quickly I finished. I let my mouth curl and wave her closer, and she leans in delighted, and a dagger arrives at her throat. I apologize. I was in a hurry on the way out and I forgot to bring any money. Her face drops through several expressions at speed and settles on fury. So I meant to eat and run, and do I dare kill her? If I kill her, I will never get out of this building. And besides, she has dozens of men downstairs. Put the knife down, work off what I owe, and I might live. I do not answer her. I lift the dagger and put it through her arm. Blood comes up across my face, and for a second I am not fine. Then I put that away where it cannot reach me. What comes out of her could be heard 3 streets over. Every head in the building turns, and dozens of thugs come up the stairs and block them solid. And out of the middle of them comes a bare-chested slab of a man with a face built for exactly this work, carrying a heavy blade, with evil chi rolling off and toward the ceiling. He wants to know where this little brat came from, daring to pull a knife in his spring blossom pavilion, and informs me that I truly do not understand what death means. I smile at him. I am a man who is not afraid of dying. Am I supposed to be frightened of a bully? Then I ask him to guess where I am going to stab next. I pull the dagger back out. Blood goes across the floorboards. The madam screams, and the color leaves every face on that staircase. Chu-gui frowns and starts coming up one step at a time, betting that I love my own life and fear losing it. He tells her, conversationally, that it looks like I want her dead so I can take the pavilion for myself, and that in that case he will send me on my way. And the madam, who can do arithmetic, loses control of herself where she stands. She roars at him to ask whether he is trying to get her killed, and to back off and let this little brother walk out. Chu-gui stops. The two of them are partners with a great deal of shared money, and she has backing, and he does not dare push it. He tells them to back off. The thugs go back down the stairs, and I lean in and ask her very gently to do me a favor and light this. She does not dare refuse. She lights the fire starter with shaking hands, and then starts negotiating. I should not do anything reckless. She can guarantee I walk out safely, and she will give me 100 silver taels. Then, immediately, 1,000. I hold the dagger in one hand and pull a firebomb out of my bag with the other, and ask whether she takes me for a child. If I let her go, I am a dead man for certain. Chu-gui swings his blade and lets his body-tempering cultivation off the leash, and the pressure breaks the tables around him. He tells me I cannot escape and that surrender buys me a quick death. I cannot be bothered to answer. All I need is chaos, so a girl in a boy's clothes can walk out of a burning building unnoticed. I compliment him on being a martial artist, then light the firebomb and throw it. He sneers and slashes it out of the air, which sprays burning fuel across the entire ground floor and sets the whole room alight. It also sets him on fire. He is extremely surprised about that. He runs for the rockery pond, gets airborne and lands hard enough to empty half of it across the floor. Then he walks back out steaming with his skin glowing faintly red underneath, which tells me something I did not know. He asks whether that is all I have, informs me he is a body-tempering 5th stage expert, and says my crooked little tricks cannot get through his defense. Meanwhile, the pavilion is burning. The thugs are fighting the fire, and the customers and the women are running for the street. By my rough estimate, I have just cost this building 1,000 silver taels. I tell him it is impressive. Then I take out a second firebomb, and the entire room changes its mind about me and clears back like I am carrying plague. Even Chu-gui's face flickers. He is not afraid of it, and he has recently been on fire. I light it and throw it, and not one person moves to stop me as I take the madam by the throat and walk her out onto the street. The whole town gathers at a safe distance to watch the fire, which means nobody at all is looking at the slight dark-faced boy who slips out of the doorway, turns left into the alley, and finds an old man waiting. Old man Ju stares at his granddaughter dressed as a boy with his hands shaking, not daring to touch her, and asks whether that is really her. She says grandpa, and that is as far as either of them gets. Then they look up the street at me, surrounded, and both their faces change. She asks whether their benefactor can get away. He does not answer, because he has just worked out that the method I promised him was to trade my life for theirs. He looks up at the sky with his eyes going wet, and says there are still good people in this world. Then he pulls her down to kneel with him, and they put their heads to the ground 3 times. He tells her they cannot help their benefactor, and that if they do not leave now, everything he has done is wasted. And he tells her that from this day the Jew family will not worship heaven and will not worship any deity. They will worship their benefactor. He pulls her up the alley while she keeps turning around every 3 steps. By then I am at the riverside with nothing behind me. I am a landlubber, so the water is not an exit, and even if it were I would not take it, because I need my talent to hand me something that keeps me alive. My firebombs are gone, the pavilion is one solid sheet of fire, and everyone who could run has run. I remark out loud that the Spring Blossom Pavilion is destroyed, and what a pity. Every commoner in that crowd who was ever squeezed by Chu-gui or the madam starts cheering, and standing together in that number they are suddenly not frightened of him at all. Which is the exact moment Chu-gui stops caring whether the madam lives. He throws the 9-ring broadsword straight through both of us. She gets out one last thing on the way, shrieking that she will not let him go, even as a ghost, and that the Wang family will not let him go either. Body tempering 5th stage goes through 2 people without slowing down, and we both go into the river. Dying hurts, and I would like to stop learning this. Under the water my thoughts start coming apart, and through the surface I can see arrows going in after me, because apparently killing me once was not sufficient for his mood. It hurts so much. I swear next time, I am going to cultivate and become an immortal. The last thing I do with my own body is shove the madam's corpse away from me, because I am not going down there attached to her. That is just bad luck. On the bank, Chu-gui punches nothing and snaps a willow tree in half, and the crowd that came to enjoy the show remembers urgent business elsewhere. Then he explains loudly that everyone saw it. That man used Wang Yubang as a shield. Chugui was trying to save her, and the killing was an accident. His thugs agree immediately and at length, and their version comes out so garbled that the boss is injured saving the boss and then avenges the boss. He nods, satisfied, and orders both bodies dragged out of the river, because he intends to take me apart properly. And that is when a servant comes sprinting up, gray with fear, to say something has happened to the old master. Chugui grabs him and points out that his father is a body-tempering 8th stage expert. The servant, shaking, says the old master suddenly exploded all of him with nothing left to bury. Chugui kills the servant with one slap for lying, then leaves at a dead run for home. The further he gets, the worse his face becomes, because a servant would never dare invent that. His pavilion is ash and his father is a stain. And somewhere in there he starts using the phrase damned plague god. A day later I wake in a mortuary, look at what the river and the sword did to my clothes, and mourn them, because they were new. I borrow a black set off a neighbor who is not using them, and find the style acceptable and the smell less so. Then I sit on a coffin and ask whoever is listening for something I can actually use. The panel tells me I was killed by Chugui, that his father was sacrificed, that the host has been resurrected, and that I have one card draw. His father, which means he has no mother, or would have taken her instead. Light flickers, and 3 cards come up. 3 of them, where last time there were 8. So the number scales with something, and the only thing that has changed is me. The weaker I am, the fewer cards I get. I tap one at random and ask for a useful skill. What I get is a book called The Basic Theory and Outline of Cultivation. 3 hours later, I am flat on the coffin with nothing left in me. And then I sit up grinning, because I finally know how to start cultivating. I think that counts as getting through the door. The first step is body tempering, strengthening the mortal body layer by layer from the inside out until it passes a point where you can draw chi in and begin the next stage. There are 9 levels, and it normally takes medicinal assistance because the body alone will not get you into cultivation. I cannot reliably get fed, so tempering is beyond my budget. So I know how to cultivate, and doing it remains a separate problem since the outline wants a body tempering technique and a medicinal liquid, and I have neither. I jump off the coffin anyway. The Tao is long, but if you walk it you arrive, and big cities have more opportunities. I leave the mortuary and start studying this world properly, and 3 months go by. I learn to survive on hard labor, on begging, and on a certain amount of lying with confidence, and I put on 10 pounds and start looking like a living person. I also learn where I am, the Azure Spirit Continent, a cultivation world where the sects stand entirely above the mortal empires. And my country is the Wunyang Kingdom, thoroughly unremarkable among countless others. Mortal empires have cultivators too, and in the big cities there are legendary Golden Core realm powerhouses who go into sky and earth and live 500 years. The nearest big city is Changgun City. I find a caravan going there and the leader takes me on for hard labor, no wages. 2 meals a day. I accept instantly, because I am certain Changgun City has an opportunity in it with my name on it. The caravan belongs to the Wang family of Changgun City, whose head is a great perfection of foundation establishment powerhouse. The leader is a 3rd-level chi condensation cultivator, a genuine expert by mortal standards. And the dozens of guards are all solid body tempering men. Next to these people, Chugui was nothing. The road is safe, and half a month of being rattled along it delivers me to the gates. I part from the caravan and stand looking up at an ancient, enormous city, and I cannot help saying out loud that a big city really is different. The main road never empties, and every so often a sword cultivator crosses the sky overhead, exactly the way I always pictured it. So I put my hands on my hips and address myself in high spirits. Big cities have many opportunities. After several months of systematic study, I have integrated completely into this world and have its rules firmly in hand. With a modern mind like mine, it is only a matter of time before I am thriving. First business, then connections, then medicine, then tempering, and then this vast world is mine to soar in. And then thunder goes off over the city hard enough to make the air feel wrong. I look up at lightning moving through the cloud like a dragon and remark that the cultivation world really is different, because even the thunder here looks expensive. The thunder dragon roars, and the sound twists the empty air until black cracks open in it. The cloud sinks until it is sitting on the whole city. Every ton of it turns dark red. A hurricane comes up out of nowhere, and a storm the color of blood drags sand into the sky and snaps trees in half. I swallow. Is the commotion not a little large, and is cultivation world thunder always this apocalyptic? Why do I feel the smallest amount of unease? Then the thunder dragon roars again, and hundreds of thousands of cultivators across Changgun City turn into streaks of light and run for their lives. The blood-colored thunder swallows every one of them, until the sky is red mist. The smile comes off my face by degrees, and I begin turning around very carefully. It is raining. I think I will go home and bring in my laundry, and visit Changgun City another time. The air twists, and a billion threads of bloodlight pin me flat where I cannot move a finger. Out of the thunder, a man in blood-colored clothes with white hair whipping around him rides toward the city on a blood dragon made of nothing. Looking directly at what comes off him nearly finishes me. Behind him floats the body of a beautiful woman, not breathing. Devilish chi pours off him like a tide across the whole city, and he speaks in a voice belonging to a god or a demon. In this life, he says, he has no father, no mother, no relatives, and no friends. Only his beloved Somu, and since the heavens want to separate them, he refuses to believe in fate. If the sky wants to take her, he will go against the heavenly Tao itself. Even if he becomes a devil head, the whole world wants dead. Even if he becomes a devil head, the whole world wants dead. Then the light erupts across all of Cheonggun City, and he begins blood sacrificing every living thing in it to resurrect one woman. Below, the Cheonggun City Lord shouts that the Righteous Path Alliance will hold him to account, and that the City Lord will fight him to the death. The City Lord is a Golden Core Realm powerhouse. He gets one slogan out and becomes red mist folding itself into the dead woman. I want to scream and cannot open my mouth, because I am being pressed hard enough to burst. Big cities have many opportunities, and nobody mentioned the density of devil heads. Big brother, I would like to point out that if I die here, so does your wife. And then I died. He folds 1,000,000 lives into her body, and the life force that comes out of her goes up like a column. Then he draws the spiritual power of the 9 heavens through his palms into her, laughing low in his throat, and tells her to resurrect. Her eyelashes move, and she opens her eyes. He says her name with blood running out of the corners of his own eyes, and only he knows what it costs to get here. She sits up, takes his hand in both of hers, and tells him gently that she is back. He says it feels unreal, and that he is afraid the next moment she will be gone again. Then she explodes. I want to be clear that I had no control over the timing. What follows is a man going insane in the ruins of a city he emptied, screaming at the heavens for taking her twice, and flying up to fight the sky itself. Somewhere above, the heavenly Tao presumably wonders what it did to deserve this. I wake up in a beggar's den at the side of a road in Pungram City, helpless and faintly furious, started over again. Then my mood turns around, because the beloved of a devil head like that had to be somebody, which makes this a blessing in disguise. At my current station, I am not even qualified to be murdered by a powerhouse. The panel confirms it. Killed by Wong Sam, his wife sacrificed, host resurrected, 1 card draw, and 17 cards come up glowing in front of me. 17 of them, and I grin like an idiot and take 1. It gives me a mystic rank low-grade spiritual plant master, a profession that specializes in growing and cultivating spiritual plants and spirit medicine. A note explains the latter runs heaven, earth, mystic, yellow, and mortal. My smile sets, and then I decide it is fine. It is at least a skill, and if the worst happens, I can grow my own spirit medicine and temper my own body with it. The panel now reads Cultivation None and Physique Mortal, with the falling wind palm at Major Achievement and no divine ability. Under Profession, it gives Mystic rank low-grade Spiritual Plant Master, with a lifespan of infinity and the talent called Borrowing Life. I look around the den at the actual beggars and shake my head, because I am not one of them, and from today I do not accept charity. A passing auntie looks me over, decides I clean up well, reaches out and pinches me, and shoves 2 copper coins into my hand. I stare at her, wondering what exactly she takes me for. She asks what I am looking at, informs me that this is all I am worth, and walks off. I am furious, because a scholar may be killed but not insulted. Then I remember that I have no money. 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river. Do not look down on a young man because he is poor. Then I take the coins to a street stall and eat a steaming bowl of bean rice, and it is excellent. Afterward, I squat in a corner of the city center and think, I cannot beg forever, and I cannot make a career out of dying either. Then gongs and drums come up the street. The man at the front bellows that the sect political review for immortal cultivation has begun, that anyone wanting assessment should hurry, and that it runs 3 days with no latecomers. I stand straight up with my chin out, because heaven helps me. Joining a sect as a mystic rank spiritual plant master should be worth at least a medicine garden supervisor post. Half an hour later, I am at a purpose-built courtyard, quite luxurious and guarded on all sides, and a guard tells me coldly to stop staring and get in line. There are 100 people ahead of me, and it takes under an hour, which is suspiciously fast for something supposed to be rigorous. Inside there are 3 tables and 3 men, and the one on the right hands me a form wanting my name, age, address, and what my ancestors did for 3 generations. No written test and no interview. Immortal cultivation is remarkably convenient. I write furiously, and everything but my name and age is invention, and the examiner does not look at it. He looks at me instead, and this goes on for some time. Eventually, he explains that the resources of the immortal realm are limited, that every additional cultivator reduces everyone's share, and that the license quota per city is fixed annually. This year, Pungram City has 300. Does the little fellow understand what he means? I understand perfectly because he means a bribe. I cough and ask for a hint, and the man on the right snorts and quotes 100 spirit stones per place. I turn and walk straight out because I cannot afford lunch. Behind me, my form is dropped on the floor unread. Broad daylight, open bribery, and a genius of my caliber locked outside the door. I squat in a corner until sunset in case a talent scout wanders past. None does. Then I walk without direction until I stop in front of a sign so unremarkable I nearly missed it. A spiritual plant garden. Outside the sects and a handful of cultivation strongholds, those essentially do not exist, because growing spirit medicine takes spiritual soil, an environment thick with spiritual chi, and spiritual seeds. The cycles run from a year or two out to nobody knows. Cultivated plants die easily, and the sunk cost is enormous. Everybody just digs up wild ones and only a lunatic farms them. Which is why I stand there genuinely shocked, and decide the boat straightens when it reaches the bridge after all. I push the door into a room too dim to see and call out, and a low old voice from the backyard tells me to get out. So I go into the backyard, because I cannot die. The air hits me with a faint spiritual fragrance, and the beds are full of spirit medicine flickering with points of starlight. Squatting among it is a pedantic-looking old man frowning at one withered, half-starved plant. I lean over and look. It is a heart-flame grass, which holds fire attribute spiritual power and is worth a great deal to fire attribute practitioners. So I tell him it has to be watered with the fire attribute cultivator's spiritual power, or planted over fire veins, and that otherwise it will not survive. The old man stands up and looks at me with cold, eerie light in his eyes, and asks whether I know how to cultivate spirit medicine. I tell him modestly that I know a thing or two. He looks me up and down, finds no fluctuation of spiritual power anywhere on me, and no sign that I have ever tempered anything, and relaxes considerably. His voice does not, and he asks whether I want to stay. I say yes. He says I can, with no pay, only food and lodging. I frown, because that is straightforward exploitation, and dog capitalism is apparently universal across worlds. Then, before I can start bargaining, he adds that he will give me a commission. For every 10 spirit medicines I bring to maturity, I keep one, and I choose which. Deal, I tell him, and introduce myself, and shake on it before he can reconsider. He ignores my entire manner and tells me to call him Old Man Joe. The room on the left of the ground floor is mine. Apart from that room in the backyard, I do not enter anywhere without permission, or I go back where I came from. And, he adds, I do not steal the spirit medicine. No problem at all. It is my first honest job since transmigrating and my first roof. Old Man Joe does not look easy to live with, and I am delighted. I settle in and my life turns into a loop between 2 points. Tend the spirit medicine, care for the spirit medicine, eat, sleep. Old Man Joe and I rarely exchange more than 3 sentences a day. He gets steadily more relaxed about my presence, mostly because the cooking and cleaning have quietly become mine. Then, once he works out that my results with the plants are genuinely good, he hands me every bed in the garden and spends his days in a rocking chair looking half dead. I do not mind at all, and I find the whole arrangement rather pleasant. Time goes the way it goes, and a year later my first batch matures at 28 plants. Old Man Joe is visibly shocked, because that survival rate should not be possible, and his opinion of me shifts. He asks me to tell him honestly how much my slight understanding is actually worth. With my eyes on all that shimmering spirit medicine, I tell him not much, just a mystic rank spiritual plant master. That stops him. He asks how a mortal with no qualification to handle spiritual plants could possibly be a mystic rank master, and then explains his doubt. Becoming a ranked spiritual plant master costs vast resources and vast time, and it is an auxiliary profession usually taken up by family disciples who lack cultivation talent. And I, he points out, fit neither category. I am not worried about him prying, because I cannot die, and after a month under one roof I have his measure. He is prickly and cold and his character is decent, which here is rare. So I tell him it is a secret, and ask whether finishing his work is not enough. He nods and lets it go, curious, but not curious enough to push. Then he tells me that as agreed I may choose any 3 spirit medicine. I look up at him startled, and he barks at me to choose since he told me to choose, and to stop dawdling. Then he offers one piece of advice, which is that if I intend to cultivate, I should take spirit medicine suited to body tempering. And he turns and walks off. I watch him go, and I cut my hands at his back and thank him properly. Whoever said hard work goes unrewarded. I take 3 out of the 28, all of them mortal rank. Newly matured spirit medicine that has just developed spirituality sits at mortal rank and only climbs to yellow rank if it survives past 100 years. I take 1 blood-melting grass and 1 bone spirit flower, which are both body-tempering material, and 1 profound nether grass, which is common enough but worth more than the other 2. I pack the profound nether grass into a wooden box and take it to a pharmacy. The shopkeeper looks me over, finds no spiritual power on me, and goes cold. He opens the box, glances in, and values a 1-year-old mortal rank profound nethergrass of average quality at 6 spirit stones. I remember what Old Man Joe said about being allowed to use his name, so I mentioned that I am from Old Man Joe's spirit medicine garden. The shopkeeper's face performs a complete reversal in under a second. He coughs, becomes warm, asks why I did not say so immediately, and offers 12 spirit stones with the extra as a gift for our first meeting. I thank him, take the stones, and take the wooden box back because it is my container and I am not losing it. As for who Old Man Joe actually is, I have no interest. All I want is to temper my body and get into body tempering. Then I visit a spiritual artifact shop and am immediately out of my depth, because the most ordinary mortal rank spiritual sword costs 100 spirit stones. What I came for was a storage pouch, and I read the description and walk out before the assistant reaches me. The cheapest is 50 spirit stones, and using one requires divine sense I do not have. Instead, I spend 5 spirit stones on medicinal powder, fire stones, and silver needles, and go home and take over the kitchen with a bucket and a great deal of cold water. The theory is straightforward. Fill the bucket cold, dissolve the powder, add fire stones, and bring the heat up the way you would boil a frog. Grind the spirit medicine in, then put silver needles through your own acupoints to open the meridians. It is what you do with no proper technique, and the results are poor and it is dangerous. While I am setting up, Old Man Joe starts pacing back and forth outside the kitchen door. The old man is invisible for weeks at a time, and today, at the critical hour, he is here creating problems. So I shut the door. He kicks it off its hinges. I stare at him and he takes a long breath and asks whether I even know how to open my own acupoints with a silver needle. No, I tell him, and I will learn as I go. He asks whether I know the correct heating rate for the fire stones. No idea, I tell him, and who cares? As long as it tempers the body, it is fine. I cannot die, so what exactly is there to be careful about? He stands there with dark lines forming on his forehead and calls me reckless. Then he asks how cultivation could possibly be child's play, and how he is supposed to stand there and let me do this. Then he demands to know where I learned these methods. From a book on the basic theory and outline of cultivation, I tell him. He laughs the way people laugh when they have gone past anger, because he has apparently never met anyone this reckless in his life. Then he offers a deal, 10 spirit medicine, and he will conduct the body tempering himself. I frown, because 10 spirit medicine is several years of my wages and that does not sound cost effective. Which is the point at which Old Man Joe becomes genuinely entertained by his own fury. Over the years, he has had people on their knees begging him to temper their children. And here is this one, hesitating over 10 plants he grew himself. Seeing that he is about to detonate, and preferring not to be thrown out of the garden, I accept enthusiastically. Then I add that if he fails, he does not get the spirit medicine. He has to physically stop himself from killing me. He tells me to strip down, get in the barrel, close my eyes, and not move no matter how much it hurts. I turn around, feeling shy about it, get down to my shorts, climb in, and shut my eyes fast. He raises a hand, and the blood-melting grass and the bone spirit flower appear in his grip out of nothing and fuse into a spiritual liquid that pours into the barrel. Then he takes 10 wooden boxes out of his storage ring, sweeps his sleeve, and 10 more spirit medicines go in after them. I am about to open my eyes and object to the expense when he tells me not to move. His left hand floods red and pushes heat into the water by degrees. His right takes a silver needle across my 360 acupoints with a technique I have never seen, opening each one so my body can drink what is in that water. His hands move faster and faster until sweat comes up on his forehead. He tells me to hold my breath, observe my own body, draw the liquid in and follow his spiritual power, and warns me it will be very painful. My skin starts breathing. It drinks the liquid straight out of the water, and my bones and flesh go numb and then tingle like a billion insects are working through me, which compared to being decapitated is manageable. The water empties into me, and black filth seeps out of my skin, carrying everything that should not have been in there. An hour in, Old Man Joe has gone pale, and starts swearing at me, demanding to know what kind of trash physique I have, and why there are this many impurities in one person. Then he refines 10 more spirit medicines and pours those in too. An hour after that he withdraws and almost goes down, and ends up against the wall breathing hard. He asks himself quietly whether he has become this weak, and says there is not much time left. I open my eyes, coated in black filth and feeling light enough to float. Then I see the state of him and move to help, and he stops me with pure disdain and tells me I am filthy and to go and wash. He also tells me my perseverance is not bad, and that a man who can endure that much can achieve something even with a poor physique. Then he mentions I now owe him 20 spirit medicines, and walks off looking a decade older than he did this morning. I bow to his back and thank him, and I know exactly how much karma I have just taken on. I do not care who he used to be because he paid something heavy to do that for me. Once I am clean, I buy good wine and every ingredient I can carry and put a full table together. When he sees it, something moves behind his face. He tells me I am at the first layer of body tempering now, and my impurities are gone. Then he warns me not to be extravagant, because the spirit medicine each layer needs is not a small quantity. I scratch my head and pour his wine and tell him I know, and that the feast is my thanks. I have noted the favor, and I will repay it like a gushing spring if I ever get the chance. He mocks me for making big speeches at the first layer of body tempering, and drains the cup in one go. Then he admits the wine is not bad, and that I still have some conscience in me. Then I hand him my last 5 spirit stones. When he looks at me puzzled, I explain that I know it is not enough, and that it is everything I have. I will work off the rest, because where I come from, paying your debts is simply what a person does. My rules are short. Favors get repaid, debts get cleared, and grudges get collected. He stares at the stones for a long time without saying anything. Then he smiles and puts them away, and tells me we are square, that from now on I owe him nothing, and that the arrangement stands exactly as agreed. I start to say that is not what I meant, and he informs me that if I keep being wishy-washy, I can go back where I came from. So I stop, and I file the favor somewhere I can find it later. After that, he stops being quite so cold, and something almost like warmth gets into him. When the meal ends, he goes back to his rooms and forbids me to follow. I curl my lip, clean up the wreckage, and go tend the plants. At dusk, I sit in my own room and look inward at what my body has become, and it frightens me slightly. Back on Earth, I would count as a minor expert. I test it and come out at about 400 pounds of strength, which is above an average body tempering practitioner already. So this is what being a prodigy feels like. After that, my life flattens into something calm, built out of sleep, plants, food, and now cultivation. What I practice is the Gale Sword technique, which Old Man Joe gave me. It is a basic form that needs no chi and carries no rank at all. I started out swinging a length of bamboo, and he could not stand watching it, so he carved me a wooden sword. 1,000 swings at sunrise, 1,000 at noon, and 1,000 at sunset. Every day, without exception, tireless. 5 years in, I have long since taken the form to perfection, and I am still swinging it. Old Man Joe cannot work out why and eventually tells me I could simply ask him for a different basic technique. I refuse. I think the sword is cool, so the sword it is, and greed ruins the digestion, so one technique is plenty. However fancy anybody else's methods are, I will break them with one sword. He goes quiet at that, because he privately thinks it makes sense. Across those 5 years, his body comes apart in front of me. He ages visibly, month by month. I ask more than once and he changes the subject every time, and there is nothing I can do about it. I go the other way. 5 years puts me at the 5th layer of body tempering with over 2,000 pounds behind my arms. Watching me strut about, Old Man Joe, gray-headed in his rocking chair, tells me that 5 years to reach the 5th layer of body tempering makes me a truly remarkable genius. I chuckle and say he flatters me. He laughs furious and clarifies that he was not praising me. A dog at the side of the road, he says, could clear the whole body tempering realm and step into chi condensation in 5 years. But I cultivate steadily, he says, and I temper without relying on external things, drawing the spiritual energy in and doing the work myself, which makes me slower than a turtle. I scratch my head and give him my most obsequious smile and say nothing at all. The actual reason is that I have been paying off a debt he already told me I do not owe. It is not much back, it is something, and my lifespan has no end on it. If body tempering takes me 100 years, it costs me nothing at all. Old Man Joe's brows come down one evening, and he asks whether I am thinking of giving the spirit medicine back to him. I say certainly not. Then, under that stare, I admit that it is a little bit that. He calls it nonsense, and then for once, he does not follow it with a lecture. He goes quiet instead. I keep my head down. This is the man who is both mentor and father to me, who put me on the road of cultivation, and who is the only person in this world who ever dealt with me honestly. I am not going to argue with him. After a long while, he sighs and tells me that this old man does not have much time left. Something drops out of the middle of me. I tell him that cannot be right, that he is a master, that masters live for hundreds or thousands of years. He shakes his head and says he damaged his foundation and cannot last much longer. Then he asks me to promise that while he is still alive, I will cultivate diligently and gain at least enough strength to protect myself, so that this old man can die without regrets. Somewhere in these years, he stopped thinking of me as hired help and started thinking of me as his, and I am sad in a way I did not expect, because I have endless lifespan and I cannot die, and none of that buys him a single day. I am weak. I am as weak as a beginner, so I promise I will cultivate diligently and I will take care of his spirit medicine garden. He smiles, says nothing else, closes his eyes, rocks his chair, and points at the garden. The meaning is clear enough. After that, I temper with spirit medicine, practice the sword, tend the plants, and walk around Pungrim City, and 3 more years go past. Then I reach the 9th level of body tempering and finish the realm. with 6,000 pounds behind my arms. In the 8 years since I started, I have swung that sword 9,720,000 times, and the basic technique has grown into something else entirely. Every day, wind or rain, no exceptions. I go to him extremely pleased with myself and announce the 9th level, and ask whether I can start chi condensation now. Old Man Joe is briefly speechless, because 8 years to clear body tempering means my talent is genuinely unsuited to immortal cultivation. My stubbornness is the only part of me he approves of, and he does not want to take it away from me. So he says not bad, and that the spirit medicine clearly sped things up considerably. Then he explains chi condensation. You absorb heaven and earth spiritual chi, regulate your breathing, guide it with your mind, draw it into the body, and condense it in the lower dantian, opening specific acupoints to let it circulate. Once you push it through one complete cycle of your body, you break into the first level. He adds that it depends on physique, and that a cultivation prodigy might finish that first cycle in 3 to 5 days. I sit with that, and then ask what happens if the talent is relatively poor. He blinks and tells me that no matter how poor the talent, anybody completes the first cycle and steps into the first level within half a year. That is a relief. Half a year is nothing. Half a year later, Old Man Joe looks at me still working on that first cycle and says nothing at all. Then he feels my resentment across the courtyard, coughs, and explains that he shortened the time to motivate me, and that in fact even a prodigy needs a month for the first cycle. If the talent is a little worse, a year or two is entirely normal, and I should not be discouraged. I thank him and swear privately that I will have it inside a year. 2.5 years later, a white-haired Old Man Joe looks at my unchanged 9th level of body tempering and cannot bring himself to say anything discouraging. So he tells me that this old man lied to me again, and that taking 8 or 10 years to reach the first level of chi condensation is perfectly normal. I must believe in myself. By then he has privately concluded that I have no cultivation talent whatsoever. I am carrying a mixed spiritual root, and the very worst grade of it, the kind that surfaces once in an age. I am not discouraged in the slightest. If 2.5 years is not enough, then 10, then 100, then 1,000. I will step into chi condensation eventually. I tell him I will cultivate hard and not let his expectations down. He waits until I am gone before he coughs, and there is blood in his hand when he looks at it. He says quietly that time is truly running out, and that the little fellow needs to hurry. 10 years later, I am squatting by his bed watching him die. My cultivation is at the 9th level of body tempering. His eyes have gone cloudy. He tells me that this old man began this life with one regret, and now has 2. I smile awkwardly, because 13 years without reaching the first level of chi condensation is genuinely outrageous, and I tell him not to worry, because sooner or later I will get there. He does not answer that. Instead, he starts giving the kind of advice men give at the end. I should not be so persistent, because persistence like mine invites chi deviation. Perhaps I truly am not suited to cultivation. With my ability to grow spirit medicine, I could live wealthy and comfortable for the rest of my life. His own road, he says, has reached its end, and the road ahead I walk alone. 22 years together, and not as father and son. Better than that, I ask him what his other regrets are, and tell him I will finish them for him. I have asked before who damaged his foundation, and about his past, and he has never once answered. He shakes his head, stern even now, and says they are not people I can afford to provoke. The grudge belongs to this old man alone, and there is no need to drag me into it. Then the instructions. When he dies, I leave within 3 days. I leave Pungrum City, I go far, and I do not come back. His possessions carry an aura on them, so he cannot give me any of it without bringing trouble down on me. And at my strength, those things would not help me. They would kill me. He has left me enough to live comfortably, and he tells me to listen to him, because the cultivation world is not a good place, and I should find somewhere remote and live out my life in peace. He does not want me in the cultivation world at all. That is the whole of it. I nod and do not argue, because a man at the end of his life gets his wishes honored. But I ask for one thing. I want to know his unfinished regret, because one day I may be able to complete it, and if I never learn it, it becomes my obsession instead. He is silent a long time. Then he tells me that this old man has a daughter named Jo Yunui who cultivates in the Ice Cloud sect. When I have time, I should go and see her for him. He says he owes her far, far too much. His eyes are unfocused by then. He says that in this life, out of stubbornness and arrogance, he lost too much and missed too much, and that all of it is his own retribution. He tells me not to bury him, and to let heaven and earth take his body, and to let him rot where he lies. Then he says that Unui has been clever since she was small, with high talent and a mind of her own, and that he does not worry about her. He worries about me. Remember, he says, Myanga, do not force it. Perhaps you truly are not suited to cultivation. I get up, wipe my eyes, wash him, and change him into the burial clothes I prepared a long time ago. Then I bury him in the spirit medicine garden anyway, put up a stone, and plant spirit medicine seeds all around him. After that, I sit down in front of the grave with 22 dishes I cooked myself, and 2 pots of good wine. Then I tell Old Man Joe we are drinking until dawn and not going home sober. I drink a cup and pour one out for him. I ask whether he is still holding up, and tell him not to hold back. I finish mine and inform him that he owes 2 as a penalty. I offer to teach him a drinking game for my old world, and then I run out of things to say to a headstone. I am alone again. I drink what is left in the pot in one go and sit there looking at the sky for a very long time. I wake up the next afternoon in front of the grave, kneel, put my head to the ground 3 times, and get up. Every 3 steps down the path I turn around, and I tell him I am leaving, and that he should not worry, because I will go and see Joe Unui. While I am packing, I find a cloth bag under my pillow, and it is a storage pouch. He knew I could not use one, so he cut out a wisp of his own chi and worked it into the pouch. Now, with no divine sense at all, a small movement of intent puts things in and takes them out. The space inside runs to about 10 cubic meters. In it, there are 1,000 spirit stones, 100 stalks of low-grade spirit medicine, 1,000 taels of gold, and a scatter of loose silver. There are also 2 cultivation techniques, both yellow rank. One is a cloud wind step. The other is an earth dragon shield, one for running away and one for hiding behind. Exactly how certain was he that I was going to die out there? I do not take any of the high-level material he owned, because I could not read it and it would only be weight. Underneath all of it, there are 2 sets of black clothes and a letter, and the letter is for Joe Unui. I pack what I actually use, take one last look at the place that held me for 22 years, and go. I do not touch his storage ring or his spirit medicine or anything else of his. All of it goes into the grave with him. Wooden sword at my waist, storage pouch in my shirt, out the gate. 3 days after I leave, 4 cultivators nobody in Pungrim City has ever seen walk into the spirit medicine garden. They confirm that he is dead, and their faces do complicated things. One of them says that the once #1 expert of the Wunyang Kingdom has fallen this far, and calls it sad. Another asks what the #1 expert of a mortal empire is worth. In the eyes of a sect, he says, the man was a slightly larger ant, and dying of old age was already a gift. A third calls it a pity that his star Q-point body tempering legacy was never passed on. The fourth mentions that a young man appeared at his side for his final 22 years, and asks whether that might be a successor, and whether they should cut the weeds and pull the roots. The first tells him to forget it, because one should not go too far in anything. They take the body, report to their superiors, and leave Pungrim City. The rest of it they decide is not their business. Chu Gui of Falling Flower Town. There is a blood debt out there with my name on it. Favors get repaid and grudges get collected. It can be late. It always arrives. I ride out with a caravan, and this time I do not work my passage. I pay 10 silver taels for a seat, because I have money now, and because I feel like it. 10 days later, I am standing in Falling Flower Town again. 22 years is nothing at all inside a life like mine. In a small mortal town, it is everything. The place is unchanged, and the people are entirely different, the way seasons turn over. The yellow-haired children I stepped past are grown and married with children of their own crying for food. Apart from Old Man Jew, I never knew anyone here. So I go straight to the Spring Blossom Pavilion, which is standing again and doing better business than it ever did. Chu Gui has reached the 8th level of body tempering. He is stronger and he is worse. He squeezes the commoners, takes women, takes farmland, and has the whole town living carefully. The officials and the villains still work the same side of the street, and the people underneath are living in misery with nowhere to take it. Inside, somebody interrupts Chu Gui in his room, and he comes out swearing and knocks the man across the corridor with one slap. The underling, holding his face, explains that somebody is causing trouble downstairs, that he looks like an expert, and that nobody dared move on him. Chu Gui tells them to bring his blade, because he wants to see which death-seeking bastard is doing this on his ground. He comes down carrying the 9-ring broadsword, and the thubs and the women get out of his way. The new madam points at the man in black and accuses him of looking over every girl in the house, saying none of them were good enough, and calling Brother Gui a fatherless bastard. Chu Gui walks into the room with his power surging and asks where this little bastard came from, daring to cause trouble in his Spring Blossom Pavilion. With my back to him, I laugh, turn around slowly, and take off my bamboo hat. Chu Gui. Long time no see. He goes completely still, his pupils shrink down to points, and the disbelief on him is total. He could not forget that face if he burned it. Because of me, his years of work evaporated. He paid out an enormous sum, and his father died on the same day. He actually takes 2 steps backward, the way a man does when he sees a ghost. Then it turns into rage. He says I did not die after all, and that I have delivered myself to his door. This time he will cut me into 8 pieces and see how I come back from that. He puts everything into the swing and the air cracks with it, and then blood is dripping onto the floorboards, 1 drop at a time. His pupils blow wide. The 9-ring broadsword hits the ground, and both his hands go up to his own throat, and he asks how this is possible. I wipe the wooden sword clean with a handkerchief, put it back at my waist, put my hat on, and start walking out. By the time he lands and stops being a person, the whole building is coming apart. The thugs run. Not one of them considers avenging him. I look at the women, who are terrified and have no idea what is happening. Without hurrying, I tell them to take their things and leave Falling Flower Town, and to go as far as they can. Anyone still here in a few minutes dies. Then I put the wooden sword through the staircase and leave a mark in it. They come out of it fast and pack like people fleeing a fire. A few of them stop at the door, bow to me from a safe distance, thank me, and go. Inside of a few minutes, the most prosperous building in Falling Flower Town is empty, so I pick up a kerosene lamp and burn the Spring Blossom Pavilion down for the 2nd time. Brothels can exist, this kind cannot. Then I leave, and nobody in that town ever sees me again. They tell stories about it afterward. Some say an immortal master came down from a sect to uphold justice and clear out evil. Some say an evil ghost out of the 9 netherworlds, a spirit that never dispersed after dying 22 years ago, came back for revenge. Some say a swordsman of the mortal world came through to cut down an injustice. A month later, I sit the Immortal Cultivation Review in Moonflame City, pay 120 spirit stones because the price has gone up, and walk out with an Immortal Cultivation permit. The chief examiner assures me that with this permit I may join any sect I wish. I do not believe a word of it. I do, however, have a dream, and the dream is being a senior brother. Picture it, senior brother of an Immortal Cultivation sect, with thousands of prodigies lowering their heads to you. That is better than being an elder. So I set off to join a sect. The nearest one to Moonflame City is called the Mind Inquiry Sect, and something about that name tugs at me. I do not chase it. Who remembers anything from 22 years ago? I buy a map and start walking, and the walk takes half a year. This world is far too large. Once you are outside a city, the land is empty in a way that has to be experienced, with nothing living on it at all. So I keep my head down and go the direction the map says. I rest when I am tired, hunt when I am hungry, and drink out of mountain springs. My cultivation does not slip. The daily swings happen wherever I happen to be standing. I no longer look like a man who set out with a plan. I look like a vagrant with bad hair. Then a streak of light crosses the sky, and something in my chest jumps. Flying on a sword means at least a chi condensation realm expert, and at that speed probably better. These people kill on a whim, and I am relieved when it keeps going. The sword light turns hard and comes back and stops in the air in front of me. A woman with a high ponytail in red, cut close enough to be a statement, and she looks exactly the way I always pictured a bold female sword cultivator looking. Namgung Yun stands with her hands behind her back and looks down at me. She identifies me as a body-tempering cultivator, asks where I am going, and offers me a ride if it is on her way. A kind-hearted cultivator. I did not know those were stocked. I hesitate and tell her the Mind Inquiry Sect. Not on her way, she says. See you again if fate wills it. Her sword draws a clean arc toward the horizon, and then she adds, over her shoulder, that I am going the wrong direction entirely, because the Mind Inquiry Sect is southeast and I am walking northwest. I crumple the map and throw it away and turn southeast. After that, I meet a great many people on that road. Farmers in their fields, children playing, scholars traveling to sit exams, and the broke descendants of families that used to matter. Also a fair number of cultivators, all of them considerably colder than Namgung Yan was. 2.5 years go by, I am still at the 9th level of body tempering. I am much stronger inside it, and I do not break through. If Old Man Joe had not left me those spirit stones and that silver, I would have starved somewhere on that road. After 3 months of genuinely empty wilderness, I finally see a post station. It is falling down, and there are living people in it, which at that point is enough. I go in, shake the dust off, and call out to ask whether anyone is there. Then my eyes narrow, because there is blood in the air. A voice comes through delighted about a distinguished guest, calls me a handsome young master, starts to say I must be very delicious, and corrects itself to say I must be a very good person. I sit down anyway, toss my bundle on the table, and unstrap my wooden sword. Then I tell the landlady to bring her best wine and meat, because I have plenty of money. She laughs, says a swordsman as well, and tells me it will be right out. In the kitchen there are 2 bodies on the floor with pieces missing. A bald butcher watches her come in, licks his lips, and says something greasy about being thirsty. She tells him to stop rushing, because the man outside is carrying plenty of good things, and that they slaughter him first and he can do as he likes afterward. He shivers with pleasure and calls it fantastic, and she tells him to hurry and make the guest a whole human feast. He agrees that there is no sense being wasteful, and starts putting limbs and ribs into a boiling pot. At which point a disgusted voice from the doorway points out that he ought to blanch the meat first to take the gaminess out. Doing it that way will make the whole pot taste off. Both their faces come apart. I am standing in the door smiling at them. She decides that since I have seen it, I cannot blame them, and tells the butcher to kill me. He laughs, and all of him wobbles, and he swings the cleaver. I raise an eyebrow, step off the line, and kick his knee sideways. The knee goes. He loses his footing entirely and goes into the wall, and the cleaver hits the wall first, and his own head arrives on the back of the blade. That was far too easy for you. The landlady is shaking now, and she explains pitifully that he forced all of it, that she is only a weak woman, that she would never have dared resist. Then she thanks heaven that the young master intervened to kill the evil man, and begins to offer herself. Sword light. Her head comes off and rolls to my feet. Too filthy. Disgusting. I search the place, find sweet potatoes and cabbage and some genuinely bad wine, cook myself 2 dishes, eat well and move on. Half a year later I estimate that I am a month out from the Mind Inquiry sect. Then a sword light crosses the sky, turns hard and stops in front of me. We look at each other. The world is enormous and I have run into Namgung Yan again. She calls it fate, addresses me as mortal, and sizes me up. Then she asks with real surprise how I am still at the 9th level of body tempering, when she has gone from the foundation establishment middle stage to the late stage in the same period. My face goes hot. I cough and explain that in cultivating the Tao, the foundation matters most, and that I am polishing mine so I can go further later. And that on the day she first saw me I had only just reached the 9th level, so there is no rush. Her eyes light up. She cups her hands at me and says I am worthy of being called fellow Taoist, and that she is impressed. When she broke into the Qi condensation realm, she says, it took her a whole month, and she thought that was admirably steady until she met me. With a state of mind like mine, she says, I will certainly achieve something extraordinary. Then she says farewell and vanishes toward the horizon faster than she arrived. Wait, it was on the way this time. Why did I not get a ride? I sigh and keep walking, and half a month later I reach the great city at the foot of the mountain, which is called Mind Inquiry City. A city directly under a sect's authority is not comparable to a place like Pungram City. Everyone I pass on the main road is a body tempering cultivator at minimum. There are Qi condensation and foundation establishment cultivators everywhere, and with a little luck you can walk past a Golden Core Realm expert. The shops sell spirit medicine, spiritual artifacts, medicinal pills and cultivation techniques, and enough variety to make my head turn. This, finally, is the true world of immortal cultivation. Then a cultivator rides past me on a demon beast, and I stand there gaping like the country bumpkin I very obviously am. Somebody behind me introduces himself as Woon Chong Wool and gives me a proper cupped fist salute. I turn around and find a good-looking young man with a folding fan, and I return the salute and give him my own name. He asks, polite as anything, whether I have come to join the Mind Inquiry sect. I say yes. Then he tells me that meeting me feels like meeting an old friend, and suggests we travel together. I have heard that line before, and where I come from it is not usually the opening of a friendship. Still, I tell him that is fine, and that since I know nothing about how joining the Mind Inquiry sect actually works, I would be grateful if he enlightened me. He offers to buy, and we go and find a restaurant. Over the food he explains that neither of us has stepped into the Qi condensation realm, so neither of us can take spirit meat or spirit wine, and we are limited to mortal food. Though the spirit rice, he says, we can manage a little of. I stop pretending to be a gentleman and clear that table like weather. Woon Chungwal sits there with his chopsticks frozen halfway up. I tell him to eat and not stand on ceremony. After all these years of sleeping outdoors and going without, I have suffered enough, and face is worth nothing to me. He recovers and says I am a refreshingly straightforward person and eats with beautiful manners. If I am being rude, then I am being rude, and there is no need to preserve my dignity on my behalf. Only a man who has nearly starved knows what a blessing a full stomach is, and this one is excellent. When the plates are gone, he asks what my spiritual root has to do with joining a sect, since surely a cultivation license is enough. He looks surprised, sizes me up, and allows that there is some truth in what I say. But if I happen to hold a high-grade spiritual root, he adds, I might save myself a great deal of spirit stones. There are question marks going off in my head, because I know nothing at all, and I am a country bumpkin with a wooden sword. He works that out and, to his credit, does not sneer. He explains it patiently instead. The first requirement is the cultivation license, and that part is easy, because anyone who is not a demonic cultivator, an evil cultivator, or wanted by the righteous path, can get one. But that is only the door, because once disciple selection begins, they sort people by physique. Mixed spiritual root, low grade, medium grade, high grade, top grade, and then the special physiques. And the fees vary by category. I stop him there and ask about the fees. Paid cultivation. They are quite openly running a school. He is unbothered and keeps going. At the Mind Inquiry sect, a low-grade spiritual root pays 10,000 spirit stones a year. A medium grade pays 1,000, and a high grade pays nothing at all. A top grade pays nothing and collects subsidies on top. And a special physique gets everything a top grade gets, plus a Tao protector and blessings extended to their whole family. They also get a seat as a core elder of the sect the moment their training ends. My eye twitches because this business model has a very strong smell of home about it. After a moment, I ask what a mixed spiritual root pays. He laughs and shakes his head, and explains that anybody capable of reaching the 9th stage of body tempering could not possibly have a mixed spiritual root, however bad their physique is. With spirit medicine assisting, he says, a mixed spiritual root needs at least 3 years to reach the 9th stage. 3 years to the 9th stage, he says, and not even a dog would bother cultivating. I sit with that for a second. I am offended, and I have no honest grounds to explode about it. So I ask whether 3 years is genuinely that bad. He hedges and says he has at least never seen it, and adds that if a man relies purely on his own cultivation, the time frame does not apply. Then I ask whether the Mind Inquiry sect accepts mixed spiritual roots at all. I already know I am poor and almost certainly not getting in. I want the answer anyway, so I can stop wondering. He looks at me with an expression that is getting stranger by the minute, and answers honestly. They can, he says, and it is simply very expensive. 10 years ago, a man with a mixed spiritual root refused to accept that he could not cultivate and spent his entire family's wealth to enter at 30,000 spirit stones a year. 3 years later, the money ran out and the sect expelled him. In those 3 years, he had reached the 2nd stage of qi condensation. Some things, Woon Chongwol says, cannot be forced. Inside, I am howling at the sky, wondering whether it is possible that I actually cannot cultivate. Of the thousands of roads in the Tao, is there truly not one with my name on it? Then I cough and ask what his physique is. He puffs his chest out and lifts his chin and says that he is untalented. A mere high-grade water spiritual root. Hardly worth mentioning. You absolute villain. He catches whatever my face is doing and asks quietly how long it took me to go from starting body tempering to the 9th stage. I tell him that is a slightly presumptuous question. He smiles awkwardly, takes a crystal ball out of his storage pouch, and offers it to me, suggesting I test my physique in case this is all a misunderstanding. I want to. I also have pride, and I do not want to be laughed at in a restaurant. So we find a private room and sit down across from each other, and under his very curious eyes I put my palm on the stone. The room fills with colored light, all of it at once. From outside it must have looked like a nightclub, with 2 men dancing in it. Then every color collides at once, goes off with a bang, and leaves absolutely nothing behind. Woon Changwol stares at the stone, then at me, then at the stone. I am full of hope and ask how it went, because that light nearly blinded me, and surely that means something spectacular. He is quiet for a while. Then he says it is indeed very impressive and rarely seen in eternity, and that he once read about it in an ancient book. My physique, he says, should be the top-grade mixed spiritual root that has not appeared in eons. I need him to run that past me again. A mixed spiritual root is a mixed spiritual root. Why is there a top grade in front of it? Does that phrase have no shame? He explains that mixed spiritual roots are also graded, and that although the grading is meaningless in general, in my case it is extremely meaningful. 2 attribute and 3 attribute roots are ordinary mixed spiritual roots and quite common. 4 attribute roots are rarer and comparable to a top-grade spiritual root. And then there is mine. All 5 elements present, every attribute value perfectly balanced against the others, so that when they collide they cancel and vanish without a trace. It has not appeared in eons, and it is rarer than a prodigy. It is rarer than a son of the heavenly Tao. It is rarer than... I tell him to stop, and ask whether he is praising me or insulting me. Then I slump onto the table and ask whether the stone might simply be broken, and whether we should try again. He says that works. The nightclub happens a second time. So I stand up, shoulder my pack, and give him a proper salute. Our acquaintance has been short, I tell him, and it feels as though I have known him for years, and I do not know when we will meet again. He stands and sighs and returns it, and agrees that some things cannot be forced. Then he asks whether I am really not going to try, since I have already come all this way. That is a very familiar sentence. I have heard versions of it in every story I ever read, usually right before something terrible. I shake my head and refuse. Because the road of cultivation is full of pits, and with a physique like mine, what exactly happens when the wrong powerful person hears about it? I have no interest in being a laboratory animal. So I tell him that getting to come here and see the great spectacle of the cultivation world and getting to meet him is already a considerable fortune, and that it is enough. On a road this long we will meet again eventually. High mountains and long roads. I am not discouraged. If no sect will have me, I will cultivate by myself, slowly. There are thousands of roads in the Tao, and one of them has to be mine. He repeats the phrase back to me and adds that after this parting it may be hard to meet again, and tells me to take care. Then he goes downstairs and watches me walk away and sighs. Because a body tempering cultivator lives no more than 150 years, and a true cultivator has no ceiling at all. On a road that long, he will almost certainly never see me again. What an interesting person, he says, and what a pity. I leave mine Inquiry City and walk the main road with no destination, and for a while I genuinely do not know where I am supposed to go. Then I decide the world is wide and the four seas are my home, so why worry? The old man left me a good quantity of spirit seeds. My lifespan has no end on it. I may as well plant spirit medicine somewhere and keep pushing at chi condensation. So I pick a direction at random and start walking, and I decide that the 100th village I come to is where I stop. Spring turns to autumn, and then it does it again. Then I come over a rise and see Apricot Blossom Village standing in a stand of peach trees, and I stop and take a long breath of it. Good mountains, clear water, and the kind of place that grows people worth knowing. This is it. I greet the village chief, donate 100 silver taels to the village, and walk away with a plot of my own. It sits by a small stream at the east end, with peach trees along the bank. There are magpies, there are cicadas, and there are dogs barking somewhere behind the houses. I plant my wooden sword in the dirt, hang my bundle off it, roll my sleeves up, and start scratching a building plan into the ground. Then I hear footsteps, and when I look up, the old village chief is coming down the path with what appears to be the entire village behind him, carrying tools and timber. I ask him what this is. His granddaughter answers instead. Li Gyo is 4 years old and comes up to about my thigh. She wipes her nose and giggles and tells me they have come to build my house, because I joined Apricot Blossom Village, and that makes me a villager. We are all neighbors, and Grandpa says neighbors help each other. Wang Yiu comes past bare-chested with a beam over 100 pounds on his shoulder and tells me to stop being womanly about it. They are rough folk who do not know any fancy manners, he says, and from today I am his neighbor, and helping each other is simply correct. Then he adds that when he asks for my help in future, I had better not refuse. Of course not, I tell him. Thank you, all of you. With the men and the women and the children of Apricot Blossom Village all over it, my house goes up fast. 1 bedroom, a kitchen, a washroom, and a courtyard. Simple and plain in mine. They bring food, and they try to bring livestock, and I refuse the livestock in a panic because I have absolutely no idea how to keep animals alive. At sunset they say their goodbyes and go, and when I try to press silver on them they will not take it. Li Gyo waves her small hand at me and announces she is coming back to play tomorrow. That night I light a fire and cook a pot of spirit medicine porridge with some pickled vegetables. And it is plain, and I have rarely been this satisfied. Afterward I stretch and look up at the moon and say it out loud to nobody. I have a house of my own. I never managed that in my last life, and I have managed it in this one. The next morning, after my swings, I take a hoe to the ground behind the courtyard. At the 9th stage of body tempering, my strength runs to something like 10,000 pounds, which is genuinely absurd, and I have a plot of good farmland inside half an hour. I sow the spirit medicine seeds and go and ask Wang Yigu for manure to water them with. He watches me do it, frowns, and asks with open disgust whether anything that grows out of that is actually edible. It should be, I tell him, because this is simply recycling. He leaves deeply unconvinced. Then I break more ground for vegetables, because I am at body tempering and I am a very long way from an Idia. 3 months later, the spirit medicine is coming up strong, and I am extremely pleased with myself for picking a place this thick with spiritual chi. Li Gyo turns up in a floral dress, squats beside a blue plant, and asks with her whole face what flower this is, because it is so pretty. It is called a blue cloud seed, I tell her. Does she like it? Because she can have it. Her eyes go enormous, and she asks whether that is really all right. I am not stingy. I lift it with its soil intact, put it in a box, cover the roots, and tell her to go home, dig a hole, plant it, and water it every day. She thanks me and carries it away like it is made of glass. Shortly afterward, a rumor goes around Apricot Blossom Village that I am an immortal. The village chief, who is neither stupid nor inexperienced, has seen spirit medicine before and knew exactly what that flower was. When he learns I have a whole field of it out back, he becomes entirely certain that I am a reclusive immortal down here experiencing the mortal world. So he instructs the village that the matter of immortal go is not to be leaked or discussed, because immortals dislike having their identities exposed and being pestered by mortals. Everybody takes this extremely seriously. Overnight, every person in the village changes how they speak to me, except Li Gyo, who does not notice and does not care. I know all of this. I do not correct any of it, because with this kind of thing, the more you explain, the worse it gets, and the correct move is to say nothing at all. A year later, the spirit medicine matures, throwing off a fragrance rich enough that everything around it grows better for being near it. I do not harvest, and I keep growing. I cannot break into chi condensation, and I decide it cannot be my physique. It must be that the medicinal power is not enough yet, so I keep going. The daily training never lapses either. My strength barely improves anymore, and having something to do every morning keeps my head level. And then, it is 10 years. The Wang Yigu who carried that beam has gray in his hair now. A whole new set of children has replaced the old set, and they play around my courtyard constantly and never once touch anything of mine, least of all the spirit medicine. Li Gyo is exactly 18 and has turned into a graceful young woman. I am out among the plants harvesting a portion to refine into medicinal liquid, meaning to temper my body and widen my meridians. Then a voice like a small bell asks whether Brother Go is fussing over his spirit medicine again. I tell her to sit down, because I have a few stalks left. She keeps her eyes on her own toes and says quietly that she is getting married. Her grandfather's health is failing, and his one wish is to see it with his own eyes. I stop, and I stand up smiling, and I pick out a good-looking stalk of spirit medicine, box it, and put it in her hands. "Congratulations," I tell her. "That little girl who used to follow me around has grown up." Then I tell her it is my wedding gift, and that I hope she stays safe and happy and gets everything she ever wants. She pushes her lip out and her eyes fill, and she says she wants to keep following behind me forever. I pat her head and flick her forehead and ask whether she is planning to be my unpaid labor, because I have no openings. Then I tell her the true thing. She has her own road and I have mine, and the scenery ahead of her is very beautiful, and she should not keep looking backward. Go forward and do not look back. I push the box into her hands and wave her off. She sighs, tells me to take care, and goes. I shake my head and let it go, because a young girl's first crush is an ordinary thing, and in a few years she will not think about it at all. After the harvest, I go back to the courtyard and refine the liquid exactly the way Old Man Joe taught me, and I both soak in it and drink it. 10-year-old spirit medicine, and that has to be enough. A month later, I punch a boulder into gravel and stand there looking at a fist that is harder than the rock was, and let out a very long breath. Still nothing. By any sensible reading, the medicinal strength is sufficient, and something is still missing. And then it arrives, which is a medicinal pill. Only refining it into a pill wrings the full efficacy out of it. So I wonder aloud whether anyone makes a medicinal pill for chi condensation, and decide I have more studying to do, which means leaving Apricot Blossom Village for the nearest town to buy books on pills, and learn alchemy. Then I look at my completely undefended spirit medicine garden and my completely undefended house and find a new problem. Even if no person steals from it, the fragrance will pull in small demons and wild animals. So I need formations too, and there is an enormous amount to learn. For one moment I genuinely wonder why I do not simply die repeatedly and inherit all of it. Then I dismiss it, because it is not realistic. I could die every week for a year and never draw a card connected to alchemy or formations. Learning it myself is faster. Outside, Little Stone and Manga and the rest of them are running around my courtyard, so I wave them over. They ask what Sir needs. At some point, the entire village top to bottom started calling me Sir. At first, it made my skin crawl since I have no qualifications for it whatsoever. Then my skin got thicker and I accepted it. I pat Manga, who is the ringleader, and produce a box of candy from behind my back. Their job is to watch the spirit medicine field, and if wild animals come near, they throw stones. If the stones do not work, they leave it alone and do nothing else. Manga nods so hard his head nearly comes off, with his eyes locked on the candy and his mouth watering. I hand it over, tell him to share, and set off for Demon Subduing Town. In town, I go straight to a shop that deals in spirit medicine. In a place this small, there is almost no trade in it, so the shop is usually empty. I am wearing my bamboo hat. The shopkeeper's eyes light up and he comes over asking whether Sir is buying or selling. Selling, I tell him, and asks him for a price. I take 10 wooden boxes out of my bag and set them down, and I keep the storage pouch out of sight. He notices the boxes immediately, because only somebody who knows what he is doing stores spirit medicine in purpose-made cases. Then he opens them, and his face changes. These are all 10-year-old spirit medicine of superior quality, he says, and they do not appear to be wild. I tell him quietly and coldly that this has nothing to do with him. Something clicks behind his eyes and he becomes noticeably more respectful, because it is obvious at a glance that this material was cultivated, and owning a spirit medicine garden means belonging to a cultivation family at minimum. A hat pulled low, an unwillingness to show a face, an unusual bearing. So he assembles a theory, which is that I am a young man of some family stealing his own family's spirit medicine. I am a big city family disciple, he decides, who came out to a place this small precisely because I am afraid of being caught. He's enormously pleased with himself for seeing through me in under a minute. Then he coughs and offers 110 spirit stones per plant, and says he will round the 10 of them up to a flat 1,000. I look at him. He folds his arms and delivers his winning argument. My spirit medicine is of improper origin, and I dare not sell it in a big city, so I have nowhere to go but him. I put the boxes back in my bag and stand up. Is this man ill? And where is any of this coming from? Those are superior quality 10-year-old spirit medicine, and they are worth at least 150 apiece, and that is my floor. His face falls off. He gets in front of me, bowing and scraping, and says he was joking. He offers 120, then immediately 150, and calls that the market price, and swears there is no profit in it above that. So I stop and take the boxes back out, and I tell him to hurry up, and to stop guessing at things when he has nothing better to do, because he is unwell. He gives me a sick little smile, takes the medicine, and hands over a box holding 1,500 spirit stones. I count it, bag it, and go. Behind me he mutters that it is not right, that he could not possibly have guessed wrong, and that I must have been bluffing. Then I buy a very large number of books on formations and on medicinal pills, plus refining materials and household necessities, and go home. After that the days go flat and stay flat, and I stay in my courtyard doing 7 things. Eat, sleep, cultivate, read, refine pills, practice formations, and tend the spirit medicine. 7 years later, I successfully refined my first medicinal pill. No pill formula and no pill furnace. Nothing but the basic theory in those books. And out of it comes a pitch black lump. I look at that deeply unattractive object and grin because I am delighted with it. Then I consider what to call it and settle on the chi condensation pill, and I write my insights down carefully. Because I invented this over 7 years of experiments and I own the patent. There is a good reason nobody else has made one, incidentally. There is a foundation establishment pill, but for chi condensation, anybody with functioning meridians gets through eventually, even a mixed spiritual root. Nobody has ever needed a pill for it. I look at the black lump for a while, and then I swallow it. My face goes scarlet, and I make it to the toilet, and what follows is biblical. 3 days later, I am flat on my bed with nothing left in me and no will to continue, staring at the ceiling and asking where exactly it went wrong. Then I work it out. My problem is not my meridians. My problem is that my spiritual root attributes are in perfect conflict, so balanced that they consume each other entirely, and my spiritual energy is gone before it can finish the great circulation. Which means the job of the chi condensation pill is either to break that balance or to fuse all 5 attributes into one thing. I sit straight up with my eyes going. I am a genius, and my chi condensation pill can actually work. And while I am laughing at my own ceiling, a small voice outside the door asks whether Uncle Go is home. I get up and go out into the courtyard and look at the girl standing there, and my eyes go wide. Yoa, how did you get young again? The girl shakes her head and asks whether Uncle Go has gone senile, because her mother is Gyo, and she is called Ranwoon. I produce an extremely awkward smile because the child in front of me who looks exactly like Lee Gyo is Lee Gyo's daughter. 2 years, I say, and you have grown this much. Lee Ranwoon informs me flatly that she is 7 years old, which is when I understand what I have done. I have been so far inside that pill in that formation that I stopped counting anything, and I have not tended the spirit medicine in long enough that it has gone half wild. I apologize and ask what she needs, and whether her mother sent her. And she bursts into tears, throws herself against me, and sobs out that her mother died last night. I go completely rigid, because the little girl who used to follow me around asking about every plant in the garden cannot possibly have died. I crouch down and wipe her face and ask her gently what happened. She gets it out in pieces. 3 years ago, her father was charmed away by another woman and left the 2 of them. To keep Ranwoon fed, Lee Gyo worked day and night until she fell ill, which finally explains why I had not seen Lee Gyo in years, and never once asked myself why. I ask why she did not come to me, and I ask about grandfather village chief. Grandfather, she says, died 5 years ago, and her mother said this. Uncle Go once told her that everyone has their own road to walk, and that theirs were different, so this one was hers, and she did not want to drag me onto it. I sit with that for a long moment. I understand perfectly well that every person has their own fate. I did not expect a handful of years to be enough to take her. A mortal life is thinner than paper, and I keep forgetting it. I put my work down and handle the funeral myself. The procession, the burial, the stone. I have done this before, and that is the part that stings. We bury her by the riverbank, and afterward I stroke Ranwoon's head while she cries herself out and does not stop until she falls asleep against me. Then I hold that child and look at the stone and ask Lee Gyo whether she is blaming me. Of course she is, otherwise she would not have carried all of it alone, and she would not have left me without a single word, and she would not have refused to let me see her one last time before the end. I smile at that bitterly and shake my head, and carry her daughter home. Because I cannot die, and other people cannot even kill me permanently. I am deathless in the most literal sense available. An immortal gets 100 years at the outside. What was I supposed to do? Stand beside her and watch her turn old and go, and stay exactly as I am? For me that is not romance, but a slow cruelty. Forget it. Perhaps all of it was simply fate. Gyoa, if there is a next life, be less stubborn. After that there is a new person in my courtyard, and she does not smile. No matter what I try, Lee Ranwoon does not smile. At an age when children should be unbearable, she already looks at the world with a kind of tired compassion. I give up and let her be. Between looking after her and researching the chi condensation pill, most of my hours go to the pill, and over those years I very nearly destroy the entire herb field feeding the experiments. And then, 10 years later, I do it. A pill comes out of the furnace, iridescent, running with color. Out of the pot, technically, since I still do not own a furnace. I throw my head back and laugh like a madman with my hair everywhere. The grown Lee Ran-woon walks in from the gate, carrying a vegetable basket, takes in the state of me, and knits her brows and asks what is wrong with me. I cough, get control of my face, clasp my hands behind my back, and say it is nothing, merely a breakthrough in my cultivation. She looks at me with open suspicion, says nothing at all, and goes to cook. So I put the pill away, wipe the soot off my face, follow her into the kitchen, and ask whether little Ran-woon is really not going to cultivate and become an immortal. She does not turn around, and she says she will not. She has refused me in those exact words more times than I can count. I sigh and ask why, and whether she truly wants to stay immortal and live an ordinary life and end. She turns around and looks at me with no expression at all, and asks whether I want her to cultivate out of guilt toward her mother, or because I am afraid of being alone. My face does something, and I have no answer ready, and I say nothing. She sighs and gives me hers. She will not cultivate because she does not want to become like me, watching the people around her die one by one. Then she mentions, as if it were the weather, that Uncle Wang next door is dying, and asks whether I will handle his funeral. I frown, because in my head Wang Yigu is still bare-chested, with a beam over 100 pounds on his shoulder telling me to stop being womanly, and that was yesterday. I say he cannot be, because he is only in his 50s, and she asks whether I genuinely believe mortals live to 100, and points out that 60 or 70 is already a long life down here. I leave without answering and go to see the man off. After I am gone, Lee Ran-woon lets her face fall, and there is a great deal of grief in it. She asks the empty kitchen why I never looked at her mother. One more time, why, at the very end, her mother was still saying my name. Her mother told her to tell me that she never blamed me, that it was her own choice and had nothing to do with me. And Lee Ran-woon says that she herself cannot do that. She takes a letter out of her clothes, holds it, hesitates, and puts it back. Then she asks the room whether longevity is really a good thing and whether Uncle Go has ever once been happy living like this. She would rather be like the rest of them, dust to dust and earth to earth. 3 days later, Apricot Blossom Village has one more mound of yellow earth in it. I take care of Wang Yigu's funeral from end to end and nobody objects, because by now the village considers having an immortal preside over a burial to be a piece of luck. The old people have in fact started competing to die early, on the theory that a funeral run by me will bring fortune down onto their descendants. I have no idea what to do with these old things, these little fellows. By the calendar, I am older than every one of them. Then I go back to my room, lay a simple alarm formation, sit down cross-legged, and take out the iridescent chi condensation pill. My hands are shaking. Chi condensation. After all these years, I am finally going to get through the door. I swallow it, hold my breath, settle my mind, and start drawing the heaven and earth spiritual chi in for the great circulation. And my whole body fills with color. All of it at once. Like neon, like sunrise cloud, like every state a living thing can be in. Under whatever that pill is doing, the 5-element spiritual root stops fighting itself and fuses. Something opens inside me like a lotus with the root at its center, as though it intends to grow the world out of itself. The Tao gives birth to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to all things. And today I can use a 5-element spiritual root to do the same. 5 colors close over me. The spiritual power runs its circuit, beginning and end meet, and the whole ring folds into my body like a halo going home. First layer of chi condensation, and it is a success. The light fades. I breathe out a long stream of turbid air, open my eyes, and look at the spiritual light sitting on my own palm. Old man Joe, I did it. I got into the chi condensation realm and my road was right after all. Once the excitement drains off, I settle my chi and work out the cost. Every cultivation session from here needs a chi condensation pill where the 5 attributes will not fuse and the circulation will not close. The quantity that implies is frankly terrifying. Then again, past this point I stop caring about breakthroughs. My lifespan has no end, so there is no hurry anywhere in my life. I stand up, watch Lee Ran-woon feeding the chickens and ducks in the courtyard, hesitate, and close the door. Forget it. I will wait until Ran-woon settles down and has a family of her own, and then I will go. Behind me, she glances at the shut door, and something disappointed crosses her face and is gone before it can be seen. After that, I stop chasing realms and spend my days on the Tao of pills and the Tao of formations instead. Most of the spirit stones the spirit medicine earns go straight into books, and because every serious ancient text on formations and pills is locked inside the sex and the cultivation families, I have to derive most of it myself. That costs me far more time and energy and money than it costs anybody else. Also, across those years, I quietly put longevity-extending spirit medicine into Lee Ran-woon's food. She ages, and she simply never gets ill. 10 years go by. With the pill under me, I reach the second level of qi condensation, which by my standards is meteoric. Lee Ran-woon turns 26 and refuses to marry. I found her several suitors, all of them from good families and all of them decent men. She rejected every one. At dinner, I put my bowl down and tell her she is 26, and that if she does not marry soon, she will be an old maid. She does not look up and says she will not marry, and that things are fine as they are. Then she raises her head, looks straight at me, and adds that of course if Uncle Go does not want her here any longer, she will go. I tell her it is not that. I only wanted to be able to give her mother an answer, and if she is unwilling, then that is the end of it. Then I ask, one more time, whether she really will not cultivate. She shakes her head, and that is that. Fine then, it saves me an enormous quantity of spirit stones. By this point I am, in local terms, a wealthy landowner. After every expense I am sitting on 5,000 spirit stones and I genuinely cannot spend it fast enough. The books I have read stack up like a hill. If not 100,000 of them, then at least 90,000. And I am swimming in an ocean of knowledge and I have never been happier. Then another 20 years go. Apricot Blossom Village turns over its generations. The boys I watched running through my yard have stubble on them now. The solid middle-aged men have gone into their twilight. The only things around here that do not change are the mountains, the rivers, and me. By now, as far as this village is concerned, I am a genuine immortal who knows everything and can do anything. Healing, teaching, funerals, all of it. And because I am mild and easy to talk to, they respect me enormously and bring me every question and every stubborn illness they have. Lee Ran-woon should be a middle-aged woman and looks about 18. At dinner, she stares at me and asks whether I have been secretly dosing her. I cough and deny it energetically and suggest that perhaps it comes from spending so much time helping me with the spirit medicine and being steeped in all that spiritual qi. She withdraws her eyes, believing roughly half of it, and lets it go. 10 years, then 20, then 30. The years turn and the world turns with them, and Lee Ran-woon reaches 95. Manga and Little Stone and all the rest of them went into the ground by the riverside long ago, and there are far more new stones out there now than old ones. I sit and watch her lying on the bed, with her breath gone as thin as silk, and I sigh. My eyes do not do very much, because they have been worn smooth by too many of these. You were stubborn to the end, I tell her, and this day arrived anyway. She looks up at a face that has not changed since she was 7 years old, lifts a wrinkled hand as though she means to touch it, and puts the hand back down. Then, with death close enough to be a relief, she says she is sorry. I tell her she has nothing to apologize to me for. I know she blames me, and everyone's fate is set, and birth and age and sickness and death were never mine to move. I am very calm about it. I have buried more people from this village than I can name. She smiles with her eyes unfocused and takes out, with shaking hands, the letter she has been holding for decades, and gives it to me. Her mother never blamed me, and this is the letter she left. I cough and take the envelope and tell her I have read it. She says she knows. Then, after a long quiet, she closes her eyes and asks whether longevity is really so good, because Uncle Go has never once seemed happy. I do not have an answer for that either. I have lived a very long time and I cannot be killed, and I cannot tell you what I am chasing or what I am living for. Possibly I am alive because I am alive, and possibly that is the whole of it. Go and see your mother, and do not keep her waiting. She says that if there is a next life, she promises she will cultivate alongside me and stay with me. And then she covers her face and comes apart, curling up on the bed, shaking. She says she was wrong, and that she is sorry and that she does not want to die, and that she wants to stay with me forever. I sigh and gather her up and tell her to cry, and to get all of it out, because she will feel better. She was stubborn her entire life and persistent her entire life, and she spent all of it inside a room she built to torture herself in. She never untied the knot, and she leaned on me anyway. The word for that is hard to pin down, because it is not only the romantic kind. There is family in it too. She feels the warmth of a person holding her and slowly settles. Then she starts humming the nursery rhyme her mother used to sing her, the one about sheep and grass and the spring wind. I bury her next to her mother, and I stay there a long time before I go. 60 years, and my cultivation reaches the third level of qi condensation. Rapid progress, by my standards. In those 60 years, I read everything I could buy, pills and formations, and then history and theory and every useless miscellaneous classical thing I could find. Useless, and I loved it. Then I gather every stock of spirit medicine into my storage pouch, pack my things, put the wooden sword through my belt, and on a quiet night I walk out of Apricot Blossom Village. I leave behind a legend about an immortal that they will be telling for generations. After that, I walk between mountains and water without hurrying because I have nowhere to be and hurrying would not help. I stop wherever the view is good and look at it for as long as I want. One evening, I have a fire going beside a small stream with a wild rabbit over it, and I watch the fat come out of it and start salivating. That smells extremely good, and this is the life of an immortal. Cultivation. Not even a dog would bother with it. Then a faint light goes past, and the rabbit stays exactly where it is. The world turns over, and I am gone. I come to in an ancient hall thick with the smell of time. The dust in there is deep enough that nobody has touched the place in a very long while. There are strange scripts and patterns cut into the walls. And there are bookshelves, and the bookshelves hold something on the order of 1,000,000 volumes. Is this a library of the ancient era? I get up, brush myself off, feel no panic whatsoever, and pull a book off the nearest shelf out of pure curiosity. A diagram of human meridians, a basic theory of formations, a theory of medicinal pill refining. My whole face changes because these are treasures, and I have never in my life been allowed near material like this. I go straight down into them and stop paying attention to anything else, including where I am and who took me. At some point, a figure in black robes is standing behind me with eyes like the bottom of a well, asking whether I like reading very much. I am not startled. I tell him there are houses of gold inside books, and that since my talent for cultivation is lacking, I may as well read, and that knowledge is quite interesting on its own. Then I close the book and turn around and look at him, and a cold line goes straight down my spine, because whatever this is, it is more powerful and more wrong than any cultivator I have ever stood near. He smiles, sits down on the floor, waves a hand through the air, and a book drops into it. Then he says, with a great deal of nostalgia, that these books are his life's collection, and that he remembers where every single one came from and knows every word inside all of them. So I hold up the one in my hand and ask whether he remembers where this one came from. He does not answer that. He was posing. I have ruined the pose by being pedantic, and it would be a miracle if he actually remembered. He coughs and changes the subject and asks whether the little fellow would like to make a deal. I curl my lip and go back to reading and tell him to speak, and that I will consider it. The fact that I am this unbothered apparently raises his opinion of me. Then he says he does not have much time left. I have heard that line before, from a much better man. He tells me he has cultivated for over 10,000 years and cannot bear to let his legacy be buried between heaven and earth. He hopes I will be his successor and carry it forward. He does not ask for much, only that in future, if anybody asks where I studied, I mention his name. I look at him sideways and ask whether the deal is really that good. Naturally, he says, our meeting is fate, and encountering me just as he is about to pass is the best arrangement destiny could have made. Except the legacy, he says, and every ancient book in this hall is mine. I think about it, cough, and admit with some embarrassment that I may disappoint him, because my talent is too painful to look at directly, and I doubt I can carry anybody's legacy anywhere. He is not troubled in the slightest. He waves his palm and a pool appears in the middle of the hall, ringed in thick spiritual light. The liquid in it looks like the essence of heaven and earth poured out and held still. Talent is not important, he says. Temper my body in this primordial spirit pool, cultivate day and night, and I will certainly reach the nascent soul realm inside 100 years. That good. He asks whether I have considered it. Nascent soul in 100 years, and every legacy, every cultivation technique, and every book in this hall becomes mine. Deal, I tell him, and it is a promise. Who would refuse that? Although honestly, I want the books more than the legacy. If I could get all of this into my head, then even if I never become a great expert, I would be a scholar who knows the whole past and present of the world. He smiles satisfied and dissolves out of the air, and his voice stays behind. Do not fail his expectations and reach nascent soul within 100 years. Do not neglect the cultivation. I may not leave this place for 100 years, and that is for my own protection. There is enough food, and once I reach foundation establishment, I will not need to eat it all. Got it, I tell him, and make an okay sign at an empty room. I do not care what he actually wants. I cannot even be bothered to work it out properly. Obviously, the man has problems. Obviously, he cannot stay visible for long and has to seal himself up to stop his life force leaking out of him. And as for what an old monster in that condition wants with a young body, you do not need to be clever. So I stretch, take my belt off, strip down to my shorts, carry 10,000 books over to the edge of the pool, climb in, lean back against the side, and start reading. In the shadows, the old man watches this and is finally satisfied and goes back into his coffin and seals himself away from the world. The primordial spirit pool cost him his life's blood, he says to nobody. It defies the heavens and rewrites fate. It ignores physique entirely and lets anyone cultivate at a prodigy's speed. Unfortunately, it succeeded too late for him, and now the only road left is possession and rebirth. 100 years pass. I spend all of them reading, and somewhere in there I discover something about myself that nearly makes me cry. I was never a bad student. I was simply never interested in a single thing my old world tried to teach me. Give me these books, and my memory turns out to be very nearly perfect, and I start forming opinions of my own. At least I am not entirely useless. In the 10th year, my cultivation quietly arrives at the 9th level of chi condensation, and even I am startled by that. The pool is genuinely extraordinary. My breakthroughs are so fast that I briefly worry my foundation will be unstable. Then I throw that worry away, because what use is a foundation to me? I am not afraid of dying. By the 20th year, I've finished the first 1,000,000 volumes, which is a prodigy's pace. By the 50th, 3,000,000. I close a book and announce to the hall that I am swimming in an ocean of knowledge, that knowledge is me and I am knowledge, and that we should continue. By the 80th, half the hall. By the 100th, 2/3, and I have long since lost count of the actual number. From the ancient past to now, I know formations, medicinal pills, artifact refining, body cultivators, demon cultivators, devil cultivators, and an enormous quantity of assorted material about the myriad races. The 3,000 Taos, the origin of heaven and earth, the theories of how everything operates, and nearly every open question in cultivation. There is exactly one shortcoming. I am still in the chi condensation realm. I look at the primordial spirit pool, which I have drunk completely dry, and I have no words at all. 100 years. The proudest work of a 10,000-year monster, the thing he spent his life's blood on. And I am at the 9th level of chi condensation, which is where I started. Where all of that spiritual energy went, I could not tell you. It feels like I absorbed it, and it also feels like I did not. Then I go looking through everything I have read, and it arrives. My body is a funnel. Until I plug the hole, it does not matter how much spiritual energy goes in, because all of it drains straight back out. The question is how to plug it. I shake the liquid off myself with spiritual energy, get dressed, sit down on the floor, and think. An hour later I have it, and I am delighted with myself. I need a Tao foundation, and that is the cork. Build the foundation, plug the leak, and I am a genius. Although it appears I will need a foundation establishment pill to build it, and not an ordinary one either. It will have to be a 5-spirit foundation establishment pill, where the 5 elemental energies will come out unbalanced and the entire thing will be wasted. I am halfway into planning the refinement when the old man reappears after 100 years of silence. He sees the drained pool and starts laughing wildly, and says he never expected that the ant he grabbed at random would turn out to be a prodigy. 100 years, he says, and his entire life's work spent, and at the very least I should be standing in the soul transformation realm with boundless potential ahead of me. Then he stops pretending and looks at me with a smile that has gone rotten, and starts a sentence about how I do not really think. I finish it for him. He wants to perform possession on me, and I understand that perfectly. His smile freezes and his eye twitches and he snorts and tells me it is interesting, and invites me to keep guessing why. So I hold my book and go through it unhurried. It comes down to 3 things. Either his lifespan is ending and he cannot break through, or his foundation is wrecked and his body is rotting with no hope of repair, or something went wrong in his cultivation and he fell into chi deviation. His eyes go dark and he says through his teeth, "Good, good, good," and that I am worthy of being the prodigy he chose. Then he invites me to guess why he specifically needed me at Nascent Soul. I roll my eyes because that one does not require guessing, and the fact that I visibly cannot be bothered enrages him considerably. He needs an Ascent Soul body to barely withstand his soul power so he can move in. He asks whether I know what he hates most in this life. Being guessed correctly, I suggest. He tells me I am quite good at guessing and then invites me to guess what happens to my soul once he has my body. Obviously it scatters, or he eats it. Is his brain damaged, and why would he even ask that? I tell him I despise him. Black chi starts pouring off him and the whole hall goes under his soul power, and it becomes clear he does not want to wait another minute. He wants to be in my body and then spend a few centuries torturing what is left of me. So I say that out loud too, and add that old monsters like him all have the same twisted, perverted little minds. He informs the room, at volume, that he wants me to die. And as he moves, I stand up and raise a hand and tell them to wait a moment. He sneers and asks whether I have finally learned fear, and says he thought I was not afraid of death, and that begging now is too late. I shake my head and sigh and explain the actual problem, which is that I never reached the Nascent Soul realm. His pool did not work, and it did not raise my realm at all. He goes still, puts his divine sense over me, and then does not speak for a long time. He checks again, and then again. He would genuinely rather believe his own divine sense is broken. The alternative is that a man absorbed the entire primordial spirit pool over 100 years and came out at the 9th level of chi condensation. He backs away with his eyes unfocused, muttering that it is impossible, that I must be lying, that I must be hiding my cultivation, that even a dog would have reached Nascent Soul after drinking that much. That one offends me. I point at the middle of his forehead and tell him he cannot insult people like that. What does it matter if my talent is a tiny bit worse, and have I ever eaten his rice? Even Old Man Joe never said anything that harsh to me. Watching his rebirth die in front of him, the old man goes completely insane, with his face somewhere between laughing and weeping. Because the pool was never just spiritual energy, since his own Tao was steeped in it. That was the entire point of using me instead of simply seizing some existing Nascent soul cultivator. Only a body raised on that pool, carrying the laws he nurtured inside it, would have matched his soul cleanly. And the pool is gone, so his perfect rebirth is gone with it. Even if the possession works now, he can see exactly how short the rest of his future is. He tells me I deserve to die, and the power that comes off him turns me into a red mist. Then he realizes what he has just done and his eyes go blood red. He roars at the sky that heaven means to destroy him, and that of all the people in the world it handed him a once in 10,000 years piece of garbage. He does not have much time. Possession is the only road left, and this body will not hold much longer. And he laughs at himself, the dignified old ancestor of the Mind Inquiry sect, reduced to this. At least, he says, a decent prodigy has appeared among his descendants to hold the Mind Inquiry sect for him. At least he has no regrets. Far away, in seclusion, the sect master of the Mind Inquiry sect, a great cultivator of the soul transformation realm, feels the blood rush to his head. And before he can even wonder why, he explodes. I wake up in an unremarkable alley in Riverfog City and check my belongings before I check anything else, and only relax once I find all of it. I am not traveling light anymore, and I cannot afford to lose that storage pouch. Then I touch the wooden sword at my side, stretch and read what the panel has for me. Killed by Hong Mujeok. Sacrificed his bloodline descendant, the Mind Inquiry sect master Hong Ochin, to resurrect the host. 20 black cards come up, and I rub my hands together like a fly over a meal. So the old monster was a Mind Inquiry sect man. I appear to be tied to that sect whether I like it or not. With 20 cards, surely I finally get a useful skill. I tap one, and it gives me an exotic fire. The Bone Nether Profound Fire. I sit very still for a second, and then the joy arrives, because that is the 10th ranked flame on the entire exotic fire ranking. An exotic fire is a flame heaven and earth produced on their own. Each kind has abilities nothing else has, and there is exactly one of each in existence. They are so rare that even cultivators facing tribulation cannot reliably obtain one. They are also enormously useful. They raise a cultivator's combat power, and they assist artifact refining, alchemy, and the building of killing formations. It is a supreme treasure by any measure. What genuinely shocks me is that a mere soul transformation cultivator was holding one, and that it was the 10th on the list. I put my palm out and a dark flame rises off it, swaying with no wind behind it, throwing sparks that bend the air around them. With my talent behind me, I refine it directly and never have to worry about backlash, which is the one thing my useless body is genuinely good for. The legends say the Bone Nether Profound Fire can call flesh back onto bone and burn the 9 netherworlds, and it now belongs to a 9th level chi condensation nobody. My luck appears to be improving. Holding it makes me stronger, though what actually matters is that I will never have to do alchemy over an ordinary flame again. As for combat power, I do not particularly care. At the 9th level of chi condensation, what is the point? In a straight fight, I still lose to a Foundation Establishment cultivator. The panel now lists me at the 9th level of chi condensation with immortal physique, the Falling Wind Palmet major achievement, no divine ability, an infinite lifespan and the talent called Borrowing Life. Under profession, it gives a yellow grade medium alchemist, a mortal grade low artifact refiner, and a mystic grade high spiritual plant master. And under spirit treasure, the Bone Nether Profound Fire. Somehow I have gotten stronger again without noticing, and cultivation is not so hard after all. Half an hour later, I am sitting in a restaurant behind a table of good wine and better food, enjoying myself while I think about what comes next. In that half hour, I established where I am. Riverfog City in the Woongyong Kingdom, a decent-sized city and less than 1,000 miles from the capital. The sect where Zhou Yunui lives is a long way from the Woongyong Kingdom, so there is no particular rush. Then I notice a few bounty hunters nearby with tokens hanging off their belts, and my mouth curls. My lifespan has no end on it. Experiencing every state a human life comes in seems like a reasonable way to spend some of it. 10 years later, in the Bounty Tavern of Riverfog City, which exists to feed, house, and pay bounty hunters, a very loud room goes completely silent because a man in black has walked in. Every drinker turns to look at him. Black inner garments, black outer robe, a plain wooden sword across his back, a storage pouch at his waist. I go to the counter and put 2 bloodstained cloth bags on it, and tell the man they are the heads of the black and white twin evils. He gives me a long look, verifies them, and says with real admiration that they certainly are, and that the bounty is 100 spirit stones, and that I should keep them safe. I take the stones, read the new notices on the board, memorize them, and leave. Behind me, the room starts up again. That is Black saying again. And how many bounties has he turned in this month? Somebody has been counting, and the answer is 8. Does this man not cultivate at all? Somebody points out that one bounty a month covers a hunter's cultivation expenses comfortably, and this man averages over 10 and is far too competitive. Somebody declares him a role model, puts down his drink, and announces he is going out to take a job. Somebody else tells him it is not that easy, and that this is work where you carry your own head. The rest of them are here to make a living rather than to seek death. I do not take another job, and I go home. For 10 years, I have set everything else aside and been a bounty hunter. If I am going to do a job, I intend to be better at it than everyone else in the trade. Across those 10 years, my cultivation has not moved off the 9th level of chi condensation by so much as a hair. It is absolutely solid. At that level, hunting cultivators who prey on mortals is more than sufficient, and I have gone from an unknown to Black Sang, a name in the industry. Not because I am strong, because I am competitive and I work harder than anybody sensible would. As for the cultivation, I have decided that 100 years of absurdly fast breakthroughs left my foundation unsettled, and it needs time to sit. It has now sat long enough. It is time to refine the 5-spirit foundation establishment pill. The kitchen door opens, and a 14-year-old boy comes out in gray cloth with a spoon in one hand and a spatula in the other. He has a delicate face and fair skin and a slight build, and honestly he looks like a tall woman. He smiles and bows and asks whether master is back. Suk, a beggar boy I picked up off the roadside 10 years ago, whose parents were dead and who had nobody at all, and whom I took in to watch the courtyard and clean and cook. 10 years, and the little beggar is nearly a man. I tell him to eat first and not to wait on me, and remind him that without my order he does not enter my room. He says he understands, and stays bowed until I have gone inside, and then goes back to his cooking. He is long used to how I do things, and he does not ask questions. He simply does as he is told, because in his account I gave him a second life, and if I told him to die he would not hesitate, which is a heavier thing to carry than he realizes. In my room I set an alarm formation and mask my chi, and lay out the materials. Then I raise my right hand, circulate, and the bone nether profound fire comes up and fills the whole room with cold white light. I control the fire with my left hand and use my right hand as the pill furnace, because I never owned one and never learned the orthodox way. If a real alchemist ever saw me do this, they would abduct me for study. The 5-spirit foundation establishment pill needs spirit medicine of 5 separate attributes, melted down to spiritual liquid, with the 5 elements spiritual power inside my own body used as the catalyst to fuse them. That sounds simple and it is not. The 5 liquids have to fuse perfectly with my own 5 elements power, and the flame has to be handled with precision that a mystic-grade alchemist would struggle to hold. Refining an ordinary foundation establishment pill is easy for a mystic-grade alchemist. Refining a custom 5-spirit version is something I am probably the only person in this world who could do, mostly because nobody else has ever been bored enough to try. It takes 3 hours. When the liquid finally fuses, a 5-colored foundation establishment pill comes together out of the middle of it. I pull my aura in and look at it, extremely satisfied. First attempt, and I really am a genius. I swallow it, take out 100 spirit stones, start drawing the power out of them, and go for the foundation establishment realm. 3 days later, I am looking inward at my own body with no expression on my face at all, trying to work out whether that succeeded or not. In one of the 360 acupoints in my abdomen, a 5-spirit Tao foundation has condensed, and it has plugged exactly 1 leak, which is a success. Spiritual power is still pouring out of every other acupoint I own. Why are there this many holes, and whose acupoints leak like this? I start counting. 1, 2, 3, and then 100, and then 200, and then 360. I look up at the ceiling and ask God whether this is a game to him, and whether I am expected to build 360 Tao foundations, and whether that means 360 golden cores later. Then I total up my assets, which are nowhere near enough. Cultivating immortality is ruinously expensive, and there is nothing to be done about it except work. 360 Tao foundations then. A small matter. So I bathe, change, eat, and go back out to hunt bounties. Except that where I used to do it to beat my colleagues, I now do it to fund a foundation. I go through the notices in my head and settle on a target at the 8th level of chi condensation. Ji Mumyong, a flower-plucking bandit who preys on mortal women. That one, because his character is rotten and I despise him. Then I work out where he is likely to surface. He is fast and he is good at disguise, and to this day nobody has seen his real face. So although he is only at the 8th level, the job is rated difficult and pays 200 spirit stones. The question I actually care about is how he keeps finding suitable targets so accurately. I think about that for a long while, and then I have it and I get up and go out. Suk stops what he is doing, bows, and stays bowed until I am gone. The Spring Blossom House is where River Fog City goes to listen to music, and I walk straight in. The madam is on me instantly, delighted. Is this not the renowned Master Black Sung, and what brings him here today? Has he finally taken a fancy to one of the young courtesans? Because she will arrange it immediately. My reputation as a man who does nothing but work is apparently city-wide. I point at her. She stops, her expression tightens, and she takes stock of her own figure. Then she covers her face and laughs and goes shy, and tells me I really know how to joke, and that she is an old maid now and could not possibly be worthy. If she were 10 years younger, she says, she would not have said a word and would simply have shown me her famous technique, and would I please stop teasing her. 10 spirit stones, I tell her. She decides on the spot to come out of retirement one final time and tells me to follow her. She is genuinely excited about this. Her powdered face has gone pink, and she is walking like a girl. Somewhere in there she is wondering whether Master Black Sang has this particular taste, and whether she ought to accept if he offers to keep her. She leads me up to the heaven tier room in front of an astonished house. Before we go in, she signals 2 of the girls to bring over a treasure chest that has clearly been sealed for many years. The moment the door shuts, gossip goes through that building like fire. Black Sang likes that. He is called the Daredevil, and his behavior has always been eccentric, so it tracks. The madam is nearly 60, and nobody can picture it, and several of them try. Inside, I sit down, and she begins undressing with tremendous coyness. Black lines form on my forehead, because the woman in front of me looks old enough to be my grandmother. Although in fairness, by the calendar, I am old enough to be her ancestor several times over. I tell her to stop and ask what she thinks she is doing. She freezes, works out a different theory, and steps forward to undress me instead. So I take out 10 spirit stones and toss them onto the table, and tell her to stop. I want to ask her something, and if the answer satisfies me, the stones are hers. She finally understands, sighs with real regret, puts her clothes back on very slowly, and complains that I know exactly how to get a woman's blood up. Then she sits, and her eyes go to the stones and stay there. Ordinary guests here pay in silver. Anyone paying in spirit stones is a serious spender, and 10 of them covers a night with the finest girl in the house, which tells her my question is not a small one, and she says so, and promises to tell me everything she knows. I ask whether there have been any strange people in the Spring Blossom house recently. She asks what I mean by strange. I mean somebody who genuinely comes here only to listen to the music. Her face changes because there is indeed one. He comes constantly, sits in a corner, drinks, and never asks for a girl. In a house like hers, she explains, there are a great many scholars and refined gentlemen, and even the ones who want nothing physical still take a companion for the evening. Somebody who comes purely to drink and listen is rare. And this one has a pale complexion that shows every sign of excessive indulgence, and still never touches anybody, which is strange. My mouth curls, because that is Ji Mumyong. The logic is simple. Men in places like this love to talk about which family has a daughter of marriageable age, and what her situation is. If you want to locate a specific kind of target accurately, this is the best listening post in any city. I was trying my luck. I did not expect to hit on the protagonist's halo. Then I tell her to do me a favor, and the stones are hers. She smiles and asks me to speak. I want a rumor spread. The Go family has a daughter of marriageable age, born with a profound yin physique, and she is a peerless beauty. I give her the details and the address. She stares at me and asks whether my lord intends to deal with Ji Mumyong, and whether the strange man I asked about is the flower-plucking bandit. She has spent a long time in the martial world. A hint is enough. I am not worried about her talking. The martial world has rules, and a woman who breaks them does not keep a house in a city this size. So I tell her that as long as she knows, it is fine, and ask whether 10 spirit stones covers one piece of news plus the spreading of some false information. She goes quiet, and something crosses her face. Then she grits her teeth and pushes the spirit stones back across the table at me. I narrow my eyes and wait. She snorts, and her face goes cold and furious, and it comes out through her teeth. She may be an ordinary person, she says, but there is nothing on this earth she hates more than flower-plucking bandits who prey on women from decent families, because she was one of those women once. That is what ruined her, and that is why she ended up on a road with no way back. Otherwise, she asks what woman from a normal family would choose to make a living carrying this reputation. The girls in her house are all pitiable people, so since my lord is doing this to deal with Ji Mumyong, she cannot take the stones under any circumstances, and she will help. I raise an eyebrow, and my opinion of her rearranges itself. She laughs quietly and tells me not to generalize, and not to assume everybody in her trade is a heartless villain. Ask the girls in her house, she says, because not one of them is here against her will. Everybody is trying to earn a living, and as for the ones who sold themselves, once a debt is paid, she has never once forced anybody to stay who wanted to go. I smile and apologize and tell her to take the stones anyway, because I am not short of that amount. Do the job well, I tell her, and call it ridding the people of a scourge. She sees my mind is made up, stops arguing, takes them, and bows and thanks me. I tell her I will wait for her news. On the way home, I do not go straight back. I stop and buy rouge and powder and a set of women's clothing. At twilight, in front of a bronze mirror, Im-suk looks at his own distressingly attractive reflection with his mouth twitching. He produces a very stiff smile and asks whether we really have to do this. I inspect him properly. White glazed dress, wide sleeves, blue silk ribbons, eyes like spring water, and a red mouth. He is, it has to be said, extremely convincing. In ordinary light, nobody would be certain, and in this light, nobody would even ask the question. He is a beauty waiting to be married, except that his frame is a little large. I tell him to get up and give his master a twirl. He objects. I ignore the objection and pull him up and make him copy the poses the women on the railings use. He has no way to refuse me anything, and we both know it. So I sit in the courtyard and watch him dance under the moon, and he goes from stiff and mortified to something genuinely graceful. From any distance at all, he simply looks like a tall woman dancing. When he finishes, he comes over shy and asks whether he is pretty. Dancing with your own clear shadow, I tell him. And how could the human world compare? He has real charm now, and it is not bad at all. Keep it up, little Suk. He asks whether we have to continue. Of course. He points out that this is surely enough, and that a small bluff should be plenty to convince Ji Mum-young. It is enough, I agree, and I simply want to watch. He has no response to that, and he goes back to dancing. By the next day, the whole of River Fog City has heard that a woman of peerless beauty has turned up in some obscure corner of the outskirts. A great many people want to look at her face. The doors stay shut, and breaking into a private house is illegal, so they leave disappointed. At twilight, I am back in my chair watching Im-suk dance, because he appears to have been built for it, and in 2 days he has gotten as good as the professionals. Wrong era entirely. Where I come from, that figure and that face and that dancing would have made him an enormous celebrity. Then my eyes narrow, because something is in the tree shadows. There is an aura out there, and it is deeply unpleasant, and whatever is behind it is watching Im-suk the way a wolf watches. Ji Mum-young sneers and lets his greed onto his pale face, and remarks on the beautiful scene of a woman dancing under the moon. Then he leaps, with a cloth bag already in his hand, straight at Im-suk. Im-suk does not react at all. He keeps dancing exactly as instructed, and every movement of it pulls Ji Mum-young further in. And just before he arrives, a figure drops in front of him with spiritual light gathered in one fist and puts him into the ground. The stone paving breaks apart underneath him. He understands instantly that this is a trap, spits blood, and does not waste a heartbeat before running for the courtyard wall, where he finds a man in black sitting on it with a wooden sword, looking at him without any expression at all. I ask whether he thinks he can come here and then leave, and whether he imagines Black Sang's reputation is decoration. Then I bring the wooden sword down, and the sword sheath throws him back into the courtyard. He lands hard, breathing badly, and says it is me, and that this explains a great deal. Then he tells me I have been careless, because I overlooked such a beauty. And he turns and goes for Im-suk, intending to take a hostage. Im-suk does not move, and Im-suk keeps dancing. I sit on my wall and let him get close. At 3 paces his whole face changes, and he looks down at his own feet in disbelief. Spiritual light runs across the ground as the binding formation wakes up. The chain goes through the entire courtyard, pulls in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and comes up as 5 elements Tao principles in 5 colors, and it puts him down where he stands. He gets out that I am actually a formation master, and asks how that is possible. The light closes on him and he hits the ground. I come off the wall, land neatly, and cripple his meridians and cut his cultivation off before I say a single word to him, because I am not interested in complications. Then I explain it. There are 360 mortal-grade minor formations laid through this courtyard, and triggering any one of them combines the lot into a high-grade yellow-level formation. A Foundation establishment expert would not be able to move in here. He never had a chance. I may not fear death. That has never once made me careless. He looks at me with enough hate to drink and calls it despicable that the great Black Sang, a 9th-level chi condensation expert, used a formation on him. I tell him a formation is one of my methods, and that losing is losing, and that he has a remarkable number of excuses for a man whose worst outcome is death. Then I mention that I am the one who had the madam spread the rumor. He starts shaking with rage and calls her a dead hag who deserves to die, and demands to know how I could possibly have been certain he would surface at the Spring Blossom house. Guess, I tell him. He nearly stops breathing. Then I tell him one more thing, which is that the dancer is a man. He stares at the heavenly beauty in the white dress with his entire head full of question marks. Im-suk waves and greets him pleasantly, and his voice is gentle and unmistakably male. I do not give Ji Mum-young the chance to say whatever he was going to say next. I take his head off. Blinded by lust, I observe. Although my little Im-suk is genuinely good-looking, so perhaps the man cannot be blamed. Im-suk goes scarlet and asks what nonsense his master is spouting. Fine, I tell him. I will stop teasing, dispose of the body properly, and do not get my courtyard dirty, and tomorrow I will trade this head for candy for you. Dragging a headless corpse across the yard, Im-suk points out that he is not a child anymore. I know, I tell him. I know. Teasing Im-suk is one of my few reliable entertainments. I sit back down and put the head on the ground and kick it around the courtyard like a ball while I wait for him to finish. When he is done, he looks at me playing with it, out of breath, and asks whether he should burn the clothes. I roll my eyes and ask why anybody would burn them, because that would be a waste of resources. He keeps them. In fact, I will buy him several more sets, and when he has nothing to do, he can dance for me. His pupils blow wide and he starts shaking his head very fast, and says he does not want to. Little Im-suk is the best, so be a good boy. Get some rest, because it is late. I do not give him room to argue. I stretch, pick up the head, and carry it inside and leave him standing in the courtyard being blown about by the wind. The next day, when Ji Mumyoung's bounty comes off the board, Riverfog City loses its mind. Ji Mumyoung is dead already. Who did it, and who else could it possibly have been? Somebody says that man is elusive and got caught anyway, and that if Black Sang were not already famous, he would suspect him of turning himself in to make quota. The whole tavern finds that hilarious. I come home carrying 10 portions of 5 Elements Foundation establishment material, and find a man in a light blue robe sitting in my pavilion. He congratulates Brother Black Sang and announces he has come to mooch a meal and asks whether I would mind. Lee Hyun-ram, a friend I picked up somewhere in these years, who is free-spirited and says whatever he thinks. I glance over at Im-suk, who is hiding behind the kitchen doorway, having clearly already been teased once, and tell him to put out good wine and dishes. He says yes, master, with visible relief, and flees. Once I sit down, I ask Lee Hyun-ram with some weariness whether he has been teasing Im-suk again. He coughs and denies it energetically and insists it was a friendly conversation and that the boy is simply shy. Then he admits that Im-suk has grown up genuinely handsome and starts a sentence about what might have happened to him if I had not taken him in. He does not need to finish it. In this era, there are countless men whose tastes run that way, and nobody finds it remarkable. I shake my head and then nod at him, because he is right. This era always has a great many things in it that will not come out satisfactory, and the two of us can only do what we can. Lee Hyun-ram goes quiet for a moment, smiles helplessly, and lets the subject drop. He came out of a cultivation family. He left it because he could not stomach the injustice of the world outside, or the knife work inside his own house, and because his talent was middling anyway. So now he hunts bounties in Riverfog City, and not for the spirit stones. He does it for the world he would like to live in. He handles the things that are his business, and he handles a great many things that are not. He is only a foundation establishment, and his name in this city is as large as mine, purely because he is righteous and fair and will not bend. Then he tells me to forget all that, because he came today to drink with Brother Black Sang. I tap the stone table with 2 fingers and ask whether he has taken another bounty. People call me a daredevil, but Lee Hyun-ram is the actual daredevil. He takes the worst jobs on the board every single time, and every one of them is a coin flip. I have never fully understood why a man would give up being a proper family disciple for a life this precarious. He looks entirely untroubled and tells me it is a middle-stage evil cultivator who uses the blood essence of mortals to cultivate, and that obviously he has to handle something like that. In a world this broken, he says, if nobody takes care of it, where is peace supposed to come from? Every time he takes a job that might not return him, he comes here and drinks with me first. In his own words, I am the only friend he acknowledges, and this is me seeing him off. I sigh and say nothing further. I have tried to talk him out of it more times than I can count, and the man has principles, and eventually I got used to it. Im-suk comes back with a full table of food and good wine, and we talk and drink until the light goes, and half a pot of immortal drunkenness is left standing. Lee Hyun-ram turns away and waves without looking back, and says that if he comes home alive he will drink with me again. I tell him I will keep the rest of the wine and wait for his triumphant return. After he goes, Im-suk tilts his head and asks quietly whether Master Lee is going to do something dangerous again. Yes. Then he asks why Master Lee keeps doing it, knowing how dangerous it is and that it might kill him, because of principles. 10 more years go by, and I never see Lee Hyun-ram again. Some people say he died at the hands of evil cultivators. Some say he left Riverfog City and went on cutting down injustice somewhere else. Some say he took a bad wound and lives in seclusion now. I know he is not coming back. He walked out of this world for good, chasing the peaceful age he wanted. I spend those years asking after evil cultivators and turn up nothing at all. By then I have completed the Foundation 52 times, 308 to go before I can honestly say I have entered the Foundation establishment realm. My actual strength is already inside that realm, though how far inside I could not tell you. When a bounty target is genuinely dangerous, I always use a formation in the Bone Nether Profound Fire, and never meet anybody face to face. I am cautious, and I have no reason not to be. Im-suk turns 28 and becomes a grown man. After Lee Ran-woon, I stopped asking anybody to cultivate, and that includes him. A peaceful, happy 100 years is what most people in this world would trade everything for, and Im-suk is happy. Putting him on the road of cultivation would only hand him trouble he does not have. He lies across the stone table in the pavilion watching me work, and asks whether I could not rest, because ever since Master Lee went missing he has never once seen me stop. I tell him there's a great deal in this world I still need to learn. Rather than waste the hours I may as well spend them, because learning has no end on it. He shakes his head, because he does not understand and does not want to. All he wants is to guard this small house for me. Over those years the number of bounty hunters in River Fog City goes up, and the number of bounties goes down. The Woongyang Kingdom has stood up the Demon Suppression Division to deal with evil cultivators and the worst sort of criminal. Only the genuinely dangerous jobs, or the ones where they are short-handed, still get posted. The trade is dying and most hunters change professions. I do not. When there is no work, I study formations and pills and artifact refining and refine foundation establishment pills, and I always have something to do. Then another winter comes down heavy enough to bend the branches, and it has been 60 years since I came to River Fog City. In 60 years, every familiar face turned into a stranger. The city has changed out of recognition. The bounty trade is essentially gone, and the tavern that used to be packed stands empty. Im-suk is an old man now. He is standing out in the snow in a thick fur coat, waiting for me. The gate creaks and his whole face lights up and he asks whether Master is back. An old man calling me Master has never stopped feeling strange. I told him years ago to change it, and he is used to it and he will not. I frown and tell him that with his health he should stop coming outside, and ask what happens if he catches cold, and I get him back into the room with the charcoal burning. Then I look at him properly and I cannot leave it alone. So I tell him to take one of my medicinal pills, because it would at least make his body stronger. He smiles and shakes his head and says that birth, aging, sickness, and death are the natural order, and that having accompanied Master this many years is already more than enough for him. I do not have anything to say to that. He has spent most of his life alone in this house, keeping it for a man who is never in it. He hesitates, and then very carefully asks whether Master might rest for a while, because his own time is running out. All right. The charcoal light sits on his old face, and for a moment I can see the boy I picked up off a roadside smiling at me with nothing behind it. For 10 years, I do not leave that courtyard, and I stay with him to the end. I put a great many things down in those 10 years to leave more of them for him. Even so, the 5-Spirit Foundation reaches perfection somewhere in there. 360 acupoints, 360 Tao foundations, and I am genuinely standing in the early stage of the foundation establishment realm at last. 70 years from the 9th level of Qi condensation to foundation establishment. I still think that was too fast, and worry the base is unsound. None of which matters, because Im-suk's life has run out. He is white-haired on the bed with his eyes half open, and they are as clear as they were the day I found him, with nothing of the world stuck to them. He tells me his time has come and he cannot keep walking with me, and that he is sorry. He tells me these years made him happy, and that meeting Master was the blessing of his life. Then he asks me to forgive his selfishness for not being able to keep serving me, and says that in the next life he will dance for Master under the moon. I close his eyes with my hand and bury him in the courtyard. You served me your whole life. This time it is my turn. I lay out good dishes and good wine and see him off properly, and I sit there until the snow has covered the new grave. Then I stand up and look out at a world turned entirely white. Im-suk is gone, so I should go too. Except there is one thing left to finish first, and a promise to keep. Is that not right, Brother Lee? I dig the half jar of immortal drunkenness out of the ground where it has been waiting and put it in my storage pouch. Then I pack, put on my bamboo hat, and walk out of the place that held me for 70 years, with the snow coming down around me. The branches are bent under it, and every door in the city is shut. I go out through River Fog City with a wooden sword on my back like some swordsman out of a story. Nobody notices me leave, and behind me I leave a legend of modest proportions. Some say Black Song died on a job he could not finish. Some say Black Song changed trades once the Demon Suppression Division arrived. Some say other things. It cost me a very large quantity of spirit stones to finally buy the information about that evil cultivator. I intend to take the last half jar of wine and see Lee Hyun-ram off properly, 60 years late. 10 days later I am standing in Pungram County. It is bustling and prosperous, and over the last few decades the Woongyang Kingdom has named it one of the 10 most livable places in the country, and given it a civic commendation. Everyone here lives contentedly. Everybody is fed and warm. Everybody has work. There has never been an unrest or fighting, and there has certainly never been an evil cultivator. All of which is credited to the county magistrate Jeon Bui. I do not slow down. I walk toward the county office with the jar in my hand, and people turn to look at me because my clothes make it obvious I am not from here. There are guards with swords on the steps, and they see how I am moving and put their palms on their hilts. I ignore them and look up at the plaque over the door which reads upright and bright, and I smile at it. Brother Lee, I have come to keep our appointment. Then I put a foot on the stair and keep walking. Two of them draw and block me and tell me that unauthorized persons do not enter the county office and that I should leave or die. I go past them as though they are furniture, saying it out loud as I go. Underneath the light there is filth, and you do not deserve those 4 characters. Then I draw the wooden sword and cut upward, and the sword chi takes the plaque apart and brings it down. The 2 of them come at me furious, shouting that I am aiding evildoers. I cut sideways once. 2 lines open across 2 throats, and they go down into their own blood. I saw it a while ago. Both of them had thick evil chi sitting behind their eyes. They were evil cultivators, which means the entire county office is a nest. Hiding inside the most celebrated peaceful county in the kingdom is the reason nobody has found a trace of this man in 60 years. Darkness sits under the lamp, feeding on people from other places and never touching a single resident of Pundram County. It is genuinely a good way to hide,